ברוכים הבאים רבותיי, מועדים לשמחה, חגים וזמנים לששון ופתקת טובה, שנזכה לשנים רבות נעימות וטובות בעזרת השם עם כל עם ישראל. ליל הושענה רבה, אנא השם הושיענה. The 51st, the conclusion of the 51 days of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the fields together with us. Rabboteinu HaKadoshim teach us that even if one didn't merit to do Teshuvah in Elul, he still gets another chance, HOSHANA. If that didn't work out so well, they give him another chance, Aseret Yimei Teshuvah. If that didn't work out so well, at least Kippur. And if that didn't work out so well, they give him one more chance. They say, you know what, HOSHANA RABA, we'll give it to you again. And that's why the Sephardic Jewry had a custom to stay up the whole night, HOSHANA RABA. And there's big inyanim in this in the Kabbalistic end of it, but in the simplistic end, it's a way of showing Borei Olam that at least on that night where our fate is getting sealed, we're willing to make the extra effort. Now the truth is, most of Am Yisrael that do stay up do a tikkun, a long tikkun that takes the whole night, and it's extremely important, definitely for men. But for those of us who sit and read a book, the whole night is going to put us asleep in 5 minutes. So we learn Torah, Shiurei Torah and Chizuk, and Inyana Diyoma instead. Yom HaKippurim this year was the 10th year since a great, great man that I had the merit to visit a few times myself, the Lel of a Rebbe, passed away. So as a preparation for the idea of Hoshana Rabbah, I want to share a little bit from the Lel of a Rebbe. Zchuto Yagen Aleinu. So I read an amazing story over the first holiday about the Lel of a Rebbe. There's unlimited stories, but this is one, just to understand what it means, tzaddik, when he passes away. So when I say 10, it's including the year he passed, the actual Kippur he passed, and including this one, really, and the years in between was 8. He went into the synagogue to say Kol Nidrei, and he spoke, and in his speech he kind of gave over to his students what his legacy is and what he wants from them going forward. And then he went into his side room like he did every year for a few minutes to rest. He never came out. He collapsed and he gave his neshama back to Borei Olam. So, if you look good in the Sfarim HaKadoshim, it says somebody passed away on Kippur. On Rosh Hashanah, there's a big argument. That could be, it's a bad sign, because what does that mean? He passed away on Rosh Hashanah? Somebody who dies on Rosh Hashanah, Lichora, got judged in a negative way. But on Kippur, it's a big schut, because the Yom of Mechilat Avonot, Itzumo shel Yom HaChapeh, just the day itself makes a person pure. And he didn't have time to get out of Kippur. That means he gave his neshama back, 100% pure with no pgam. Big, big schut. Anyway, so I read this story that was actually verified. That's mind-boggling. I'm talking about a Hasidic Rebbe who he always tried to hide himself and cover up for himself. Us American Jews knew him a little bit because he used to come a lot to Far Rockaway. Nobody knows why until today. He used to come from Israel a lot, and he would hide out in Far Rockaway in some house. He was a big Oved Hashem, the very big extremes. And there's a gentleman who was actually not even a Lel of a Chassid, he's a Vizhnitz Chassid at all. He belongs to a different sect. Who says over an interesting story that over the years he got to know the Lel of a Rebbe, and he liked him, so he used to stay in contact with him a lot. And the Lel of a Rebbe was a very personal person. And then cellular phones were still, had just become very popular. And a lot of times, the guys that used to come to him a lot, he would ask them for their phone number. And it wasn't unheard of that you would get a random phone call from the Lel of a Rebbe. Sometimes it was for reasons that he never understood. Maybe it was just to give you a good feeling. And other times because he wanted something. So one day, he says he's a regular day, he sees on this phone a phone call, a number he doesn't recognize. He picks up, and lo and behold, it's the Lel Rebbe himself. The Rebbe was so humble, he never called himself the Rebbe. He used to go by his last name, Biderman. And he tells him on the other end of the line, Medabel Biderman. Biderman speaking. He right away realized by the voice who it is. He was like in shock. The Rebbe's calling me. He says, yeah, Rebbe, what can I do for you? He says, I need a big favor from you. And please do it and do it right away. So he said, sure, what do you need? So he told him the name of a hospital. It was actually a psychiatric hospital in the northern part of Israel. And he said, do me a favor. Take your talit and tefillin. Go into the car. I know you have a car, that's why I'm asking you. Drive out to this hospital and call this number when you get here, the number that I called you from, and I'll come down to meet you. It's the Rebbe in a psychiatric hospital asking for talit and tefillin, like the whole story is weird. But okay, the Rebbe asked. As much as it's weird and shocking to him, he doesn't ask any questions. And he decides to do it. He lives in Bnei Brak. He goes into his car. It's a long ride up north. And the whole way he's wondering what's going on and that. But okay, he asked. And he goes up there and he calls the number. And the Rebbe comes down. And the Rebbe's first question to him, before he even said hello to him, which is, did you bring your talit and tefillin? He said, yeah. He said, give it to me quick. He gives it to him. And right there in front of the guy, the Rebbe takes the talit and tefillin and he says, do I have permission to use it? He says, sure, what's the question? Puts on the makes a bracha, puts on the talit, makes a bracha, puts on the tefillin, starts praying, takes it off a little while later, and gives it back to him. This Jew now was even more confused. He didn't understand what's going on over here. Completely confused. And he turns to the Rebbe and he says, Rebbe, can you explain me what's happening over here? You brought me from Bnei Brak to here to bring you a pair of talit and tefillin. You put it on. What's wrong with your pair? Suddenly yours is not good enough. Yours comes from generations of tzaddikim. Mine is definitely not better than yours. And that was so critical, and you couldn't even tell me hello. You had to put it on right away. And what's the story? So the Rebbe tells him, I'll tell you the story, but on condition that you don't repeat it as long as I'm alive. The Rebbe used to spend, even though he didn't live in Tzfat, he used to spend a lot of time in Tzfat. He was very connected to Tzfat. And the Rebbe tells him, it was yesterday in the evening, and there was a woman in Tzfat that I found out that she wasn't doing well mentally. And she was a danger to herself and to her surroundings. And as a result, there's no choice. I got to hospitalize her in a psychiatric hospital. So I told the family there's no choice, and they have to force hospitalize her and make the arrangements right away. He said, and he realized that they were sending her in an ambulance, meaning nobody was going with her. He said, and then I thought to myself, most of the workers over there in the hospital, Minan, are the farthest thing from Shomrei Torah Mitzvot. Many Arabs as well. He said, it's not her fault. She's a goyah. She's a Jewish woman, and she doesn't have to be around goyim. Who knows what they'll do to her? Who knows how they'll treat her? Who's going to watch her? Who's going to protect her? So I said, I was the one who said that she has to go. So it's my responsibility to make sure she's okay. So I right away got onto the next bus, and I went out. This is the great Rebbe himself. He didn't call his gabbai and say, find somebody that'll volunteer. And I went out there. And I was assuming that during the night, maybe the family would come or somebody would come. But nobody came. And I'm not judging them. Probably they all have their own problems and their own things that they have to deal with. But I couldn't leave a Jewish woman alone. And as a result, I stayed overnight. But I wasn't planning on staying overnight, so I didn't have tefillin. So the whole day I'm here, and I realized Shkia is coming in a few hours. And tefillin, I can't miss tefillin. What am I going to do? But I was even scared to leave the hospital for a minute to go somewhere else to get tefillin. So I stayed outside the room to watch over her, to make sure she's okay. And I said, who could I trust that's going to bring me tefillin without saying anything? And is not somebody who's a known student of mine that the story could go famous and this lady will be embarrassed afterwards. And then I thought of you. You're a Visionist Chassid, so you're not affiliated. So you won't say anything to anybody. And you're close enough to me that I could ask you for such a favor. And that's why right away when you came, I had to do the mitzvah already in the morning. I wasn't able to do it in the morning, so at least I should do it now. So immediately I took the tefillin and I put it on. Now that I put on talit and tefillin and so on, no, now I could already take it off and talk to you and explain to you. He said, but now that you came and you're here anyway, and you did me a favor and you gave me a talit and tefillin, and now I'm giving it back to you, so I know you have a talit and tefillin. He said, along the way, I also found out an interesting thing, that you happen to be a social worker. That means that you know a lot about this stuff. So I'm asking you to do me a favor. Really, I'm uncomfortable here in the hospital. I don't see women, I don't see goyim, this is against everything I am, against everything I do. So maybe you could do me a favor and take me over and you stay here. And like this I could take a bus and go back to Tzfat. And of course this guy, a mitzvah like that, he was dancing and singing for such a mitzvah. Well, I know that we needed it, but... and now when he said over the story years after the Rebbe passed away, he said, let's put things in perspective. Here's a man who's at that point 80 years old about, who the whole Klal Yisrael looked up to, was one of the greatest Hasidic Rebbe's for generations. He didn't belong in this generation. He belonged many, many generations ago. Who stopped everything, who gave up on all his religious principles, who threw away everything in the world just because there's a woman who's in a mental state that's so bad, meaning al pi halacha, she's patur from the mitzvot at that moment, she's a regular shoteh, who has to go to a psychiatric hospital, which is not a pleasant place to be in, not for the patient and not for anybody else there, to insist on sitting outside the room. He couldn't go in the room because of yichud. So he sat outside the room just to make sure that nobody goes in that won't treat her well, or that people see that there's somebody watching over her, so they'll take the best care of her. And for that he risked even missing the mitzvah of tefillin. That's what he was willing to give of himself, all in a quiet way. And his only condition in all of this heroic act of kindness was that nobody should find out about it. That's a little wake-up call to what it means to be a person who gives from himself, from others. Not only that, when this Jew recently said over the story and it was published over the holiday in one of the Israeli magazines, he also said over that he tried to feel out in a way that they shouldn't figure out what he's trying to feel out from the Rebbe's family and from the Rebbe's Gabaim, if they ever knew anything that he... And none of them ever knew. They all knew the Rebbe went missing for a day and a half, and nobody knew why and when. And he was the one who years later told them the reason behind the story. And he's the closest people to him. He hid the whole thing from them 100%, just to protect the dignity of a woman who was nuts. By a terrible illness, that she was dangerous to herself and to everybody around her. Ad kedei kach, he went... So, he concluded with an interesting feeling, and I identify with that feeling a lot. He said about the Leil of a Rebbe, there's unlimited muftim that said over, miracle stories. If we want to say miracle stories about the Leil of a Rebbe, we could do HOSHANA RABA from now until next HOSHANA RABA straight, talk non-stop, and we won't run out of stories. And that's just the stories that I know. So I can only imagine how many thousands of times or more stories there are than what I know. There's no end. He was a Baal Mofet, the things that he did, no end. I'll tell you one story happened with me. I got to know the Leil of a Rebbe in a very awkward way. I was in Lakewood. At that point, I was still in Kola a little, and I got a phone call, and somebody told me it's Biderman. He was talking in Hebrew, and I said, I don't know any Bidermans. I didn't know it was the Leil of a Rebbe. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know who you are. So after back and forth, and he kept on saying Biderman, and it wasn't working, he finally said, some people call me the Leil of a Rebbe. I wanted to bury myself, you know. Yeah, I'm arguing with him, I don't know who you are, what do you want from me? Fine. He tells me I'm in Bayswater than he was. He gives me an address, and he says, if you could do me a favor, take a taxi, don't worry, I'm going to pay, and come to me right now. I need to talk to you. I said, Rebbe, I don't think you know who I am. I don't know who the Rebbe is either. And I don't need a taxi, by the way. I have a car. I can drive there. Is the Rebbe sure that... So he said, just come. It's an emergency. I turned to one of my friends who was near me then when he called, and I told him, you ever heard of the Leil of a Rebbe? He says, who didn't hear of him? He's one of the biggest tzaddikim of the generation. I said, could it be that he's in America? He said, yeah, he comes either to Far Rockaway, sometimes to Bayswater, a lot. He hides out there. So I told him, he just called me, he told me to come. He says, are you crazy? You have the opportunity to see one of the holiest men alive. Go racing, and I'm coming with you. So we went into the car, and we drove to Bayswater, and I didn't know what I was going for. I didn't know anything. I walk in the house, the Rebbe was there alone. No Gabayim, no Hasidim, no nothing, alone, completely. Sitting in the dining room, a table full of Sfarim that were open, full. I don't know how many, but tens of Sfarim definitely were open. And he's learning. When I walked in, I knocked, nobody answered. I walked in. He picked up his head, he saw me, he says, yo, Yaakov. I said, yeah. He said, sit down. And then it was still a style to have pockets in your shirt over here. Today people don't really have it so much, but that was the style back then. And what do you keep here? Either a pen. Those who had to show off used to keep Mont Blanc pens. There was a joke going around back then, talking about 2002 probably, that instead of Mont Blanc pens, we should just use the cap, because anyway, that's the only reason why you're putting it in there, that people should see the cap. The other thing that some of us used to do when we had bad habits called smoking, we would keep our cigarettes here because it was the easiest access. So the Rebbe saw, I guess, my cigarettes in my pocket over here. The Rebbe used to smoke. And he turned to me and he says, I see you smoke. So I said, yeah. So he said, have a cigarette. So I naturally was going to take out my pack of cigarettes, right? Have a cigarette. He tells me, no, not that, throw that away. And then he took out of a closet like 2 cartons of cigarettes, and he looked. After a few seconds or minutes, I don't know, it felt like eternity. He pulled out 2 packs of cigarettes. He opened them up, like literally ripped them apart. Out of that, he pulled out 4 cigarettes, put them on the table, and threw all the rest of the 2 cartons in the garbage. And he said, "You'll smoke 2, and I'll smoke 2, and have kavanah to be misakin and a shama that's inside the cigarette." Wow. Telling you a story that happened with me. It was weird. The whole thing was weird. Okay, then I really didn't know what to make out of this whole visit. The whole thing was weird. And then I understood why he called me. He told me I have a student, his name is this and this, he has a daughter, La'aleinu, she's with a guy, that whole story. Maybe you could help out. It's very important to me. And again, he tells me, I'll pay you. I said, I don't do this for money. This, that. Fine. Once he was convinced that I was committed to the cause and I'll do what he wanted and I'll try my best. So he gave me a very nice warm blessings and he sent me on my merry way. When he sent me on my way, I was already about to go into the door of the car, and the Rebbe comes out of the house and he's waving that we should stop. So we stop, we come out of the car, we go back to him, my friend was there also, and he hands me a $1 bill and he gives it to me and he says, put this in your glove compartment. So I said, Rebbe, I have money. It's fine. I didn't understand what he was doing. I knew with Lubavitch, Rebbe used to give out dollars, but beyond that, I never heard of this before. He says, no, it's not for you. It's to protect your car. It's to protect your car. Right? It's weird. I don't understand. And that was that. We started driving back to Lakewood, and we were on the Garden State Parkway coming back. And it started raining, and at one point our car spun out. We spun 3 lanes over a middle section of grass into 3 lanes that are on the other side, and nothing happened, not to us and not to the car. Perfect, not a scratch, as if nothing happened. To the point that my friend made an interesting observation. There was crazy marks all over the grass and that from the mud from spinning out so at such a high speed. And the car wasn't even muddy. There wasn't even a trace of mud on the car. Forget about a scratch. And then we understood why the Rebbe gave us $1. And that $1 we still have with us all the time in the cars. We transfer it from car to car as the leases are up. But that's our little insurance policy. I think the insurance company should give me a discount because I have the little Rebbe's $1 in the car. I think I deserve it. But the person who gave from himself so much for Am Yisrael, of course, he was a big Baal Mofet, right? So that alone is a great Mofet story. The stories like that, people like hearing. So this Jew who said over this story made an interesting observation. He said, of all the Moftim that the Rebbe made, to him, as one who witnessed many, the fact that he was willing to give up on all his spiritual levels and do everything and what, just to help out a Jewish woman who's in a terrible psychiatric state, and just to make her in a way that she should be okay and protected, that to him is a bigger miracle than all. And honestly, after analyzing and thinking about his observation, there's no doubt that he's onto something, and it's very, very clear and very true. His power that he once testified about himself, as a result of then doing him a favor, anybody who did him what he considered a favor, even though it wasn't for him, it was for one of his students at all, he always felt indebted to you. So then you were able to milk him for whatever you wanted afterwards. So it was a good business deal, really. So I got close to him through that. And over the time, I challenged him on things, not challenged him, God forbid, as in questioning him. I wanted to learn. So I used to tell him, Chazal say, Torah hu v'lilmod ani tzarich. I have to know. Explain me why you did this, why you didn't do that. I used to all the time ask him different things. There were times he answered, and sometimes he didn't want to answer, and he used to always answer me the same thing when he didn't want to answer in Hebrew. He used to tell me, when you'll grow up, you'll understand. So once I answered him back, Hashem should forgive me because I was a chutzpah already. I told him, I already grew up. Once you're 13, you're a gadol. So he told me then, shetigdal ba'avanatcha, when you'll grow up in your understanding. I'm still waiting for that day. But he did say tavin, that means it's going to come, it's just a matter of time. But once I asked him, where did he get all his powers from? I said, do you attribute it to Schut Avot, to his great lineage? Do you attribute to your amazing Avodat Hashem? Yeah. So at the beginning he pushed me off very strongly, and he said, I don't have no powers, it's all lies, people make up stories about me, it's not true. And that, all different things. He said, you see, I came to you for help on different occasions, obviously you have more power than me. He was a very humble person. But I was very persistent, and I over and over and over, every opportunity I had, I asked him, what's the trick? At one time he slipped. I guess he was in a talkative mood, and he told me I never once saw anything that I shouldn't see or did anything that I shouldn't do in my life. And as a result, Hashem gave me a certain siyata d'shmaya. But he didn't elaborate what that means exactly. He just left it very vague. By his funeral, I think it was, or maybe a day after his funeral by the Shiva, I don't remember which one. One of his students that I was talking to, that was very close to him for a lot of years. Not like I knew him a little bit, but this man knew him very well for many, many years. So I told him this encounter that I had with the Rebbe. So he told me, I'll tell you a black and white story that we all witnessed that'll explain you a little bit of a glimpse of what this means. He told me a mind-boggling thing, and this again was recently published because of his yortzeit. He said that there was one year that the Rebbe was in Miron. The Rebbe used to go to Miron Pashat Bahalotcha every year. Till today, all the Lel Chasidim, Pashat Bahalotcha, they all go to Miron. The Rebbe used to go to the mikveh many times a day, and then there wasn't a normal mikveh over there in Miron like there is today, a very nice, fancy, warm one and whatever. It was a mikveh, but there was no heating and that. Pashat Bahalotcha is the middle of the winter, freezing cold. The Rebbe wasn't such a healthy man himself physically. He had all different medical issues throughout the years. And he insisted on going into the mikveh Friday. And they told him they'll drive him maybe to Tzfat, a more warmer mikveh, for safety. It's just dangerous for him. He didn't care. He didn't want to hear what anybody had to say. And he insisted on going. Not only did he go, he didn't go in and make one dip and run out, and like any of us, even youngsters, wouldn't be able to handle that cold. He went and did all his tefillot with all his kavanot. The nace was that one of his people was with him. Even though really at Pialacha, you don't go with your rabbi to the mikveh, but he asked the person to be with him. I guess he suspected that it's dangerous for his health. And at one point he went, he dipped, and he didn't come back up. They realized there's something wrong. They right away pulled him out of the water. They called an ambulance. He was unconscious, and it wasn't a good situation. The closest hospital to Miron is in Tzfat, about 9 kilometers away, 10 kilometers away. It's called Ziv, the Ziv Hospital in Tzfat. Not the best hospital, but it's a hospital. They took him there, and he was unconscious completely. They brought in doctors from other places, And the doctors right away said that he had a terrible episode, a neurological episode, and they don't believe that he's ever going to get out of it. And even if he gets out of it, he'll be paralyzed, he won't function, he this, that. It's going to be bad news. That was the diagnosis. The students were traumatized, and right away they went, and this we say the party is on. And right away they went, and they went to Miron, back to Miron to say Tehillim for the Rebbe and that. And some of the students stayed in the hospital to make sure, in case anything's needed or anything has to be changed or done, they should be available, they should be there in order to do it. When all this was going on, in middle, at one point, one of the doctors came out and told the people that were waiting, the students, so I want to tell you something. Your Rebbe's perfectly fine, and even though biologically he's unconscious, and neurologically it seems to us, based on our tests, that he has severe brain damage, I don't doubt that he's going to be perfectly fine and he's okay. So the guy looked at the doctor like he was nuts. He said, what do you mean? Didn't you just contradict yourself in the same sentence? You just said that according to all the tests he has severe neurological damage and he's unconscious and. You don't think that, so how do you say in the same sentence that you know he's okay? It's either this or that. So he said, I want to tell you exactly why. He said, besides for the scans and everything that we do, there's basic neurological testing that we do by trying to move different parts of the body and see if the muscles react in any way. So when I try to move his hands and this and that, nothing reacted in any way. As soon as I tried to move any part of his body below his waistline, his whole body started jumping up and down and I couldn't touch him. And any other doctor that tried the same thing, and they only allowed men into there, it wasn't like they allowed women into there, wasn't able to check him below his waistline in any way, in any part of his body. He said, if that's the case, I'm a religious Jew, it must be he's a very, very, very holy man. And if in this state, he's still protecting himself to such an extreme, there's no doubt that he's going to be okay. And by the way, the end of the story is that less than 24 hours later he woke up and he was perfectly fine as if nothing ever happened. When this student told me the story, he says, now you have a little bit of a glimpse of what the holiness of our Rebbe was, what the levels of Kedusha of our Rebbe was. Unbelievable thing. So this is the great tzaddik, the Rav Yaakov Yagen Aleinu. His Yortzeit was just this past Kippur, still within a few days of the Yortzeit. He loved Am Yisrael a lot. He prayed for Am Yisrael all the time, unlimited. Many times he would run to Miron, at Tzfat, in the middle of the night, at crazy hours, things that made no sense. And he would openly tell the students that he has to go to take care of something for Am Yisrael. He would see that there's a gzeira or a problem or this or that, and he would go right away to do what he has to do. And I'm sure Gdolim Tzadikim b'mitatam yoter b'chayim. So if that's what he did when he was alive, kal v'chomer 1,000 times over, that's what he's going to do from Olam Ha'emet for Am Yisrael, and his chut should stand for the whole Am Yisrael B'ezrat Hashem. He should be an advocate for us in heaven, especially tonight, on Leil HOSHANA RABA, that we should all merit the Shana Tova and Mevurachet with all the smachot and all the shmirah in the world B'ezrat Hashem. Amen. That's just because you can't start a shiur, especially a long one, without a good story. So you got two good stories of the Leil of Rebbe. And one addition that I saw that had to do with me as well. A man that was kol kulo chesed. There's no way to explain it. Kol kulo chesed. Everything was chesed. He gave himself completely. Physically, spiritually, emotionally, every way, shape, and form. But if we're on that idea of chesed and what it means, so let's see what it has to do with Sukkot. It's still in the holiday of Sukkot, right? Tomorrow night we already start a new holiday, Shmini Atzeret, but now we're still in Sukkot. So the Torah teaches us, B'Sukkot teshvu shivat yamim, you should sit in the Sukkah for 7 days, Kol ha'ezrach b'Yisrael yeshvu b'Sukkot. The whole Am Yisrael should sit in Sukkot. Why? L'man yedu dorotechem, in order for your generations to know going forward, Ki b'Sukkot hoshavti et b'nei Yisrael, because I put the Am Yisrael in Sukkot, B'hotzi otam me'eretz Mitzrayim, when I took them out of Egypt. And if you look in the Tur, really, the Tur brings down that there's two different reasons of kavanot that a person should have when he sits in a sukkah, either zechel sukkot mamash, that God literally made us sukkot, or ananei kavod, which were like sukkot, but one way or the other was some sort of protection that the sukkot gave on Am Yisrael. On the ananei kavod, Chazal teach us, it's a Mechilta in Shmot. The Mechilta says, שהיו מצרים שרויים באפלה, רואים את ישראל שהיו נתונים באורה, אוכלים ושותים ושמחים. When the Egyptians saw, this is once the Jews already started coming out of Egypt, that they were in darkness, they ended up losing the battle after 210 years, and the Jews were celebrating. They were happy, they had great light, they were drinking, they was happy, it was a big simcha. So they were jealous, so what they do? They try to kill them. והיו מזרקים בהם בחיצים. So they would throw arrows at them. באבני בליסטרה, I think that means big blocks, large blocks of stone. והיה המלאך והענן מקבלם. But none of them hit the Jews. Why? Because an angel and Ananei HaKavod used to absorb these arrows. And by the way, there's a different Chazal that says not only it absorbed them, it did an interesting thing, it made them make a U-turn. So every arrow that came to the Jews went and hit the one who threw it at the Jews. That's one Chazal. There's another Chazal that teaches us a little further in the Midrash Tanchuma that there were 7 Ananei Kavod. Shiva Ananei Kavod Ayu. There were 7 Ananei Kavod. Arba me'arba ruchot. 4 on the 4 sides, meaning 4 walls. Echad lemalta ve'echad lemala. 1 below them, 1 above them. Ve'echad mehalech lifnehem. And 1 that would go in front of them. That would be like a guide. That was the first ways that was ever created. Kol ha'namuch magbio. Ve'kol ha'gavoa manmicho. This is more sophisticated than Waze. Waze just tells you where to go, and then it reroutes you 80 times along the way, and you hope that you get to your destination. This didn't tell you there's traffic, therefore we're going to reroute you. It made the way comfortable. That means if they were traveling and there was a hill, climbing up a hill is not pleasant. So flatten out the hill, it should be flat. If there was a hole, it's a bump. Nobody likes bumpy rides. So flatten out the bump, it should be smooth. V'soref nechashim v'akravim. They were in the desert, right? Snakes, scorpions, animals, other things. He used to burn any wildlife that Greenpeace wouldn't like that Ananei Kavod. They used to kill them all, that they shouldn't be able to come towards the Jews. They should be protected 100%. Mechabed u'marvitz lifnehem taderech. It would clean and prepare in front of them the way. It says more than that in Chazal, by the way, somewhere else, that the Ananei HaKavod also served another purpose. It was a dry cleaning. They didn't have to change their clothes. He used to clean their clothes, and it would stretch them and make them grow together with the people. In today's world, that every 3 months is a new style and a new fashion, so we have to wonder if the Ananei HaKavod would change brand names and designs as well. I don't know. Maybe they had different things going on as well. Right? The man, whatever you thought of it tasted like. So maybe the Ananei HaKavod also did such a system. So this was Am Yisrael. They sat in the middle of the Ananei HaKavod. They felt God Himself. They felt big emunah and bitachon. And they had everything. We today don't have Ananei HaKavod. But what do? We sit in a sukkah. And that simple sukkah made out of wood or whatever it's made out of is supposed to give us the same feeling, Zechel Ananei HaKavod, meaning it's supposed to give us the same feeling and the same sense of protection that the original Ananei HaKavod gave us back then. How does it do that? How does it do that? So the trick over here is a clear Chazal. Chazal teach us, Ruim Kol Yisrael Leshev B'Sukkah Achat. That really Am Yisrael should all sit in one sukkah. We just live all over the world and we don't have a sukkah big enough. That's why we sit in many small sukkot. But in the ultimate world, we would all sit together in one big sukkah and it would be one big celebration of the whole Am Yisrael. Why? Chazal explain why. Because in what merit did we get the Ananei HaKavod? B'schut Aaron HaKohen, in the merit of Aaron HaKohen. What was Aaron HaKohen? Ohev Shalom, he loved peace, v'rodev Shalom, and he chased peace. And that's why Hapoes Sukkat Shalom Aleinu. The sukkah is nicknamed Shalom, peace. Because the whole reason why we got the mitzvah of Sukkah is because we had an Ananei Kavod. The reason why we had an Ananei Kavod is because Aaron's whole symbol was peace, was shalom. So what's the protection today for Am Yisrael? Gadol HaShalom. When a person lives a life of peace, he doesn't fight, he doesn't have arguments with people. So the power of peace, that's what protects a person. That's our modern day version of a Porei Sukkat Shalom Aleinu. So if a person sits in his sukkah but he has an argument with somebody, he defeated the whole purpose. The whole purpose of sukkah is to promote peace. If sukkah went and made that there should be less peace, then what's the point? What do we gain by it? There's no gain. I think one of the most famous stories about the Chafetz Chaim, there's unlimited stories about the Chafetz Chaim, right? Till today there's more stories coming out that were written in different archives that we're finding now, and there's no end. But I think probably out of all the stories about the Chafetz Chaim, one of the most famous for sure is, Chafetz Chaim was married twice. In his second marriage, the first year he was married in the second marriage, so he built the sukkah before Sukkot, Motzei Kippur, like he did every year. And then his new wife came out, and she saw the sukkah, and instead of telling him, thank you for the sukkah, it's so beautiful, she told him, Yisomeh, I think you built it in the wrong place. It would have been better to build it over there. Chafetz Chaim was already an old man. Construction wasn't his specialty either. He didn't say a word. He said, wow, thank you for your advice. Took apart the whole sukkah that he just worked on for hours and rebuilt it on the opposite side. Then she came out again. She says, now that I'm looking at it, it was better over there. You were right. I'm sorry. And again he didn't say a word. He took apart the whole sukkah once again and rebuilt it where he originally built it. He didn't say, I told you so. That's what most people do. Told you so. Next year. And later, so Adka, this part of the story is very famous. It shows an amazing thing about the Chafetz Chaim when he do it. There's no way to explain such a story. Hashem shouldn't test me with such a thing, because I'll fail. I'll tell you straight out. It ain't gonna happen. Hashem knew who to test. He tested the Chafetz Chaim because he knew he could pass such a test. But it's an amazing thing. But the part of the story that's not so famous, but this is brought down, if you look in the Sefer Chafetz Chaim Palo, over there it's brought down the source of who heard it from him. Somebody asked him afterwards, where did you get the strength from? You worked on yourself, we understand, but we all work on ourselves. Where did you get the strength from? He says, this didn't take any strength, this was a no-brainer. So he said, this didn't take any strength? This is murder. What do you mean didn't take any strength? So he told him this word. He said, the whole idea of Sukkah is HaPorei Sukkat Shalom Aleinu, is peace. So where does peace start? Peace starts at home. So if this would promote more unity in my house, what's the question at all? So that's the real building of the Sukkah. If I built the Sukkah in a place that she's not happy, so that's not a Sukkah. So of course I moved it. And she's still not happy, so now it's time to move it again until I have a kosher Sukkah. That was the Chafetz Chaim on the, And that's the protection, that's the Ananei Kavod that people have today when they live in such a level of smoothing things out. It's not stam that Chazal stressed us that the Ananei Kavod smoothing things out. Sometimes in life you have to know how to smoothen bumps out. Life brings bumps, it doesn't come easy. There's ups and there's downs, and there's times that you're right, there's times that you're dead right, there's all different rights, but one way or the other. And with all of that, yeah, you got to know how to smooth it out. The Kotzker Rebbe said to his students, to a student of his that once walked in and sighed him a big sigh and told him how hard his life is. So he told him that he can't help him. Why? Because he sighed. He said, what's wrong with sighing? So he told him in Yiddish, the ganze Welt ist nicht wert, krächzt in ein Moll. The whole world is not worth one sigh. So if you already sighed, then you defeated the purpose of the whole world, so I don't have anything further to tell you. Okay, that was the level of Kotsk. That was a very, very high level to live on. But definitely today we could say the whole world is not worth one fight. That's for sure. Because nothing ever came out of fighting. And that's why Chazal stressed that these Ananei Kavod that came from Aaron, in the merit of Aaron HaKohen, those Shalom, Used to smoothen out the bumps, the hills, to make things go smooth. Let's make the process go smoother. No. But now I want to pose a question. We have a mitzvah that we do every day. In a few hours, it's going to be the last morning of the mitzvah of Dalet Minim. We take 4 things: an etrog, lulav, hadas, and aravot, hadasim and aravot. We tie 3 of them together. We take another one separate, but we have to keep it together. We shake. And if we're missing one of the 4, if you only have 3, you didn't do the mitzvah. Chazal on that say, V'yasu kulam aguda achat. Because each one resembles a different type of Jew. V'yasu kulam aguda achat is all unity. But out of the resemblances, which one is the highest level? The etrog, right? The etrog has tam and reach. It resembles the Talmid Chacham and the heart and many other things in Chazal. So that's the highest spiritual level of the 4 minim. If that's the case, so I have a very simple question. When we say a blessing on this mitzvah every morning, we should either say al netilat arba minim, which that's really the mitzvah, or we should say al netilat etrog, because that's the most important component in it. We don't say that. We say al netilat lulav. Lulav is not the perfect one. So why do we pick the lulav over the etrog to make the blessing titling him and skipping the other 3? He just made a blessing for 5 days because Shabbat now. What were you thinking when you made the blessing? What went through your mind? Either, right? I think it's an obvious question. Either you should say al netilat dalet minim, which is really what it is, the 4 things that we take, or al netilat etrog, at least we could say that that's resembling the one that's on the highest level. But to go and take this and say has no pshat. You have to understand what it means. So in order to understand this, maybe we'll use a story. The story's not from me. I read it from a rabbi that I like quoting a lot, Rabbi Yitzchak David Grossman, Hashem Yishmereu V'chayo, the rabbi of Migdal HaEmek. A man who has tens of thousands of Jewish boys and girls that he saved in his life, maybe more than tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands, but at least tens of thousands. The American Jewry, unfortunately, don't know him by his great deeds. They know him as the one who throws out a basketball at the beginning of a Knicks game every year. The Knicks make a charity game against Maccabi Tel Aviv. Not a real game, a preseason or whatever type of game once a year. It's a fundraiser really for his institutions. And he throws out the first ball. And that's the attraction of why people come and donate. So that's what the Americans know. That's pretty embarrassing. But that's the truth. Somebody was Mishamesh Gdolei Yisrael, Talmid Chacham Atzum, gave his life on, he said. But anyway, he writes a lot. And he publishes also every week something. So in his Sukkot article, he published an interesting thing. A story. I never knew this story. This is an amazing story. And he writes names and everything, all the details. He says in Yerushalayim, in the olden days, there was a family named the Gottlieb family. Today it's a huge family in Yerushalayim. Huge, huge family. And one day, then it was a small family still, the father realized that his 10-year-old son's very sick. He had very high fever. It was the winter, it was freezing cold, and it was raining, and in Yerushalayim, rain is a sign of cold. It's like when we say snowstorm, by them rain means it's freezing. And the kid is sick, and they can't even make him tea, because they were so poor, this Gottlieb family, they didn't have wood or coal. So the house has no heat, no way to warm the kid up, and they can't make him soup, tea, something. They can't cook for him anything, they can't do anything for him, because the poverty was terrible. And they realized that his life, the hours of his life are limited based on the current circumstances. And he didn't know what to do. The problem is, not only was he poor, it was a period in Israeli history that in Hebrew was called Kufat Hatzena. There was general poverty in the whole Israel. So nobody had anything. So it's not like you can go to a neighbor and get help from a neighbor. There was nobody to help him. Today, lo aleinu, we should never know if somebody's struggling. There's always a neighbor that, maybe can come through a little bit. But then there was nobody had more. If they would have had more, he wouldn't have to ask. They would have given him. So he didn't know what to do. When he didn't know what to do, he decided that he's going to go to his Rebbe. His Rebbe was a great tzaddik. Rav Yaakov Yagen. He ran into his Rebbe and he started crying to his Rebbe and he tells him, Rebbe, I don't know what to do. My son's dying and I don't even have wood to heat him up. I don't have anything, no coals, no wood, no that. Rebbe, give me a blessing, an eitzah, a solution, an advice. I don't know, what am I supposed to do in such a crazy situation? It's a terrible situation. What am I supposed to do? The Rebbe had nothing himself. He had nothing to give him. And suddenly he calls his gabbai and he tells the gabbai, do me a favor, go down to my storage, to the machsan, and take out the walls of my sukkah. They're made out of wood, cut them up into little blocks, and bring it over to this guy's house right away so he should have wood to burn for his kid, so they should be able to heat him up and to cook for him and to hopefully save his life. Now, if we were talking about my sukkah and your sukkah, it's still a big story, but big deal. We'll buy a new one next year. Let me just explain to you a little bit what this holy Rebbe, sukkah, the walls of his sukkah were. The walls of his sukkah were engraved with all different pictures of the fruits of Shivat HaMinim. That wasn't done by an artist, that the Rebbe himself engraved throughout the years, based on the highest level of kavanot of all the Kabbalah and all the Shemot HaKadoshim. Not only that, it was built based on teachings that the Rebbe's father taught him specially of what to be mechaven when he makes these walls. There was years and years and years of work in it. And the Rebbe himself, when they would build the sukkah, didn't let people touch it, would go himself and bring the sukkah up, and would build it himself. And when they put it away, he would take the sukkah apart, and he would wrap each board individually a couple of times in special cloths and things to protect it and preserve it. And they had bought a special storage place that was waterproof and climate controlled and everything, in the olden days when this didn't exist really, just to be able to protect this holy, holy thing that to him was the most dear thing that he had in his life, the walls of his sukkah. And like nothing, he told the guy, go take the walls of the sukkah. The gabbai wasn't capable of doing it. And he just didn't move, he froze. When the Rebbe saw he froze, he looked at him again and he said, "Nu, a Jew is waiting for wood. Go quickly, I told you. Why are you waiting?" Couldn't believe it, but he can't fight with his Rebbe. And he went down to the storage and he took the walls and he was trembling, but he cut them apart. And he made it into wood that's able to burn. He brought it over to that house. And the truth is that this saved the kid's life. Not only did it save the kid's life, the kid actually grew up to become a very famous, prestigious rabbi in America for a while. And the latter years of this kid's life, he was the main rabbi of the Karlina Hasidus in Bnei Brak. It was Gaon Olam that Am Yisrael benefited a lot from. But now hear the next part of this story. The next year, the Rebbe didn't make another sukkah like this. He made himself a regular sukkah. And the students assume that the reason why he's not making another sukkah like this is because it took so much effort and whatever, that he's already old, he doesn't have the strength to make another sukkah like this. And that wasn't the case. The Rebbe said that the reason why he's not making another sukkah is because the beauty of a plain sukkah now is so much more beautiful than the original sukkah he had. Because the plain sukkah resembles that in a moment of truth, he didn't say my sukkah is holy, made with Shemot HaKadoshim and this, and comes with a masoret for my grandparents. A young kid's needs is more important than everything else in the world. And to remember that beauty is a bigger beauty than any sukkah I'll ever recreate. And I always want that beauty with plain walls in my sukkah. What was an Adam Gadol? Now we understand what it means, Sukkot HaPorei Sukkot Shalom. You want to know how the sukkah could be Ananei HaKavod for you? That's the way the sukkah could be Ananei HaKavod for you. If you live a life that what surrounds you is what first and foremost what the other person needs, even at the expense of your own, even at the expense of what you put a big effort into, then you know you're living a life of ananei kavod. But if you live a life that this I got for me, chayecha kodmim, I have all different halachic justifications otherwise. The Rebbe could have said chayecha kodmim, his life comes first. He could have even said it's a problem with tashmishei kedusha, maybe. He could have came up with all different halacha questions about it. There was all different ways out of this one. Worst case scenario, he could have went and knocked on all different doors and maybe asked different people to give each one a tiny piece of wood and gather together enough wood to save this kid's life. He had other solutions. It's not like they were in the... But the Rebbe, because of who he was, understood in 1 second instinctively that right now what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from me is to burn my sukkah, because that's the most important mitzvah right now. That comes higher and above every other mitzvah that I could have right now. And that, if that's what I have to do, and that's the Ritzon HaBoreh, so my emotional connection and my feelings about it and what I care, I don't care, this, that, all that has to right away be thrown to the side. And the one thing that has to stay is the punchline. That's HaPoreh Sukkat Shalom. If that's the case, could be, we could add on maybe a little bit of a pshat over here. Could be we can add on a pshat over here. Lulav comes from a tree of, a date tree, right? Kapot marim. If you understand the dynamics behind kapot marim, it's something that stands tall but doesn't grow taller as a result of the fruit that grows on it. Meaning, in order for the dynamics of the fruit to grow and to be able to continue, it stops at a certain point. And really, it could go Tzadik Tamar Yifrach Ke'erez Valvanu Niskeh. An eitz erez goes a lot taller. And really, a tamar, a tree of tamar would technically also be able to do it. But because Baruch Hu made in the nature of the world, which really, according to Chazal, the tamar chose it itself, is to stop its own growth for the sake of giving off the fruit. Peirot shenishtabcha b'hem Eretz Yisrael. Comes like Baruch Hu and says, when you make a blessing on the Daled Minim that resemble all types of Jews, you know what your blessing should be? Al netilat lulav. What we look up to the most is not the one who's the holiest, is the one who's willing to make the greatest personal sacrifice for the sake of giving over to somebody else. And that's exactly why the pasuk says, Tzadik katamar yifrach. Really, a tzaddik could grow like an erez, could grow all the way. But he gives up from his own personal growth to spend time with others, to help others, so other people should also stand a chance. So other people should also be able to grow. We learn that from many different places, amongst them Avraham Avinu. And one of the reasons Chazal teaches, for example, Im harav domeh lemalach Hashem tzvakot, yilamdu Torah mipiv. If the rabbi is like a malach Hashem tzvakot, like an angel, so you should learn Torah. I would say just the opposite. If the rabbi is an angel, so he's not human, so big deal. What do you want to learn? That's learning from a robot. So all the Mefashim are bothered by this. And Rashi writes an interesting thing, which the outcome of Rashi, it's not word for word, but this is the outcome of what he says, is this. What's a malach? An angel is created for a purpose, and he does that purpose, and that's it. He can't do anything else. Come Chazal and teach us, malach Hashem tzvakot. If the Rav is a person who has a purpose to give over, even if it's at his own expense, physically, financially, spiritually, all the expenses that there are, then yilamdu Torah mipiv, learn from him. But if he's teaching over the Torah for personal gain, fame, money, other things, whatever it might be, so then rabbis like that we'd rather not have in Am Yisrael. We'd be better off without all of it. That's a Chazal. That's a Rashi. Tzadik katamar yifrach. What's the title of a tzaddik? Somebody who's katamar, who's willing to stop his own growth, like a malach that's considered an omed, in order to be able to give over to others and to help others. If Avshach Zitzal, Zchuto Yagen Aleinu, would have never went out to the public eye, he would have been able to give many more shiurim and many more things and do many more things that he loved to do and learn many more hours a day also. He wouldn't be bothered by everybody's stupidity and whatever. And at a certain point in his life, when he realized the generation needs a leader, He stopped his personal growth, whatever that means, and he sacrificed time to sit with teenage boys that came to talk to them about their problems. Here's a 100-year-old man with all that, the whole Torah stands on him, and he closes his Gemara to talk to a teenager who's struggling. And you know how I know that? Because I was a teenager that struggled, and I went into Rav Shach, and he stopped everything he was doing to talk to me. He was actually learning Gemara and Gittin. I even remember the daf he was learning. And he closed the Gemara, and he said, "You're more important. What's on your mind?" Imarav Domer Malach Hashem Tzvakot. That was a Malach Hashem Tzvakot. And no, he didn't have Gabaim. He had a Meshamish, his Chayik, but he didn't have people locking his doors, not letting you in. I knocked on the door, he answered himself. Gave me chocolates, fed me, gave me money, $200 American in Israel. This was in the 90s, 94 I think it was. It's a lot of money back then. That's Imarav Domer Malach Hashem Tzvakot. Stop everything, and it goes so far that there was once a situation. Rav Shach used to speak a very famous speech every year. It was called the Yachei Kala. Ponovich made a Yachei Kala. That was the time that people took off from work and went to learn and whatever. And then there was a speech. So the beginning was in Ponovich Yeshiva. The highlight was Rav Shach's speech. And then there was no room in Ponovich Yeshiva, so they started taking halls. And at one point it got so big that they used to take a stadium, which at the time I think was the biggest stadium in Israel. It was called Yad Eliyahu. They had 15,000 seats maybe, I don't remember exactly. It was huge. And this was the highlight of the year. The whole Am Yisrael waited, because then Rav Shach said whatever was on his mind about anybody and anything, and he really gave over that Torah to Am Yisrael, as is, with no filters, not politically correct. He really said what he thought. A lot of very famous speeches of Rav Shach were during these Yachei Kala. And 1 year before the Yachei Kala, he was already about to leave, and Schayik was already in the car. Rav Shach was home alone. He was going to walk out, and he was going to go to speak. It was 15,000, I think, people, something like that. 10,000, 15,000. I think it's 15,000 people waiting to hear what he has to say. And it's not only them. There's also later on going to be broadcasted and printed. So you're talking about tens and tens of thousands of people are going to hear what he has to say. And a boy knocked on the door, not knowing that this is the worst time possible to knock, and told him that he has to speak to him. Rav Shach said, "No problem," and took him into the dining room and sat down to speak to him. Now the grandchildren started coming in to hint to him, and he threw everybody out and locked the door so nobody should be able to come into the house. They spoke to the boy for about 25 minutes. And at the end of the 25 minutes, he turned to the boy and told him like this: "Right now, the whole Am Yisrael is waiting for me. Because they call me the Gdol Hador and they want to hear what I have to say. And I have to go to a stadium and to speak and that. It's very hard for me, but I do it anyway. Why am I telling you this? Not to tell you that I'm great. To tell you that you're greater than me and all of them together. Because you're more important. And that's why they're all going to wait, and I'm talking to you." And I happen to know who that boy was. But that's a separate story. That was an Adam Gadol. Even when a kid. And then later on, this boy, a year later, asked Rav Shach an interesting question. He said, "What happened to Ben Adam al-Chavero? 15,000 people waiting. Torah Tzibur. Kohen Gadol Yom Kippurim didn't read us from didn't turn a different Sefer Torah I couldn't read from, because it might be a psul for others, whatever. But they didn't even turn the Sefer Torah, they didn't do anything. Why? Because Torah Tzibur, so he read part of the Torah by heart. And from here, the Gemara learns how important it is not to make anybody wait ever, or whatever. So Rav Shach told him like this: when you make people wait, that's Torah Tzibur, it's a big sin. He said, "But I didn't make them wait." He said, "All those 15,000 people were also obligated in helping you. Just you happened to come to me and not to them. So really, they all had the same obligation. We were all doing the mitzvah together. My mitzvah was to talk to you, and their mitzvah was to wait." The look of an Adam Gadol. The Leisel saw light years ahead of what we saw in situations. Their calculation of situations when so many light years ahead, it was so further ahead, like there's no parallel, there's no connection, there's no, the way we think and the way they thought. Nothing at all, no comparison. Off topic, but just because we're talking about Rav Shach, which is a gadol that had the zchut to grow up on his lap, so Obviously, I love talking about Rav Shach at any given occasion. So there was an interesting incident once that it happened twice actually in two different contexts. Once that I know personally somehow, and the other one that I heard that happened years before. Once there was in one of the Israeli governments had one of the people that were in charge of the finance, believe it or not, was Shimon Peres. Well, at one point was a prime minister for like a day and a half, and he was the president for 7 years, and he was a known left-wing person, but he happened to have loved yeshiva boys. It's weird. He lived in a big contradiction in a sense. Like on one hand, his views and so the opposite of yeshiva, but he loved yeshivot and yeshiva. I don't know, it was weird. It's a very interesting thing. And his greatest admiration with the two people, out of everybody in the world, you would think a man like that who was brilliant and studied tons of philosophy and sciences, and he knew a lot about a lot of things. You would think that his idols would be some famous philosopher or some famous historian. His two idols in life were two Gdolei Yisrael that are no longer with us. It's almost weird to say. Rav Shach and Rav Yosef. Those are the two people that he looked up to. And at one point, when he had a lot of power in the government, they asked him to help out with the yeshivot, to give a lot of money, whatever. And he wanted to pass a law that the Israeli government has to pay the whole bill of all the yeshivot in Israel. And he had the power then to get it through. Rav Shach called him to an emergency meeting in his house, and he sent a messenger to Rav Shach to tell him, you don't have to call me down, I'm doing it either way. Like, I agree, it's fine. He thought Rav Shach wanted to push him to do it. Rav Shach said, no, I want to talk to you. And he came to Rav Shach. This I heard from people, I don't know this firsthand, but it's an old story. And he told Rav Shach that look what I'm doing and that. And Rav Shach told him, I want to thank you and encourage you and everything. I want to ask you for a favor, don't pass the law. I said, what do you mean? I'm trying to help you with yeshivot. You should be the first to encourage me. So Rav Shach told him, no. Up to 50% I agree, more than that, no. So he said, what are you scared? That they're going to hate you guys more because you're taking money from the government? They hate you either way. It's not going to make a difference. It's fine. He said, nah, I don't care what they think about it. So Peres was a very determined person. That was his personality. He told him, so can you explain to me why not? Here I'm trying to help you. You say no to my help? Is there something wrong with me? He said, no, I told you right when you walked in how grateful I am. So he said, what? He said, listen, you're not going to live forever. He said, you'll live a long time, but not forever. And even if you would live forever, in politics people change. You're in power now, but you won't be in power in a few years. And at that point, new guys come in. The new guys definitely are not going to agree to this. And what are they going to do? They're going to take away the budget. Now all these Rashi Yeshivot got used to years of not having to fundraise. And all these Yeshivot are going to close down because they're not going to know how to do it anymore. So to protect the Lama Yeshivot, only give them 50%, so they should always have to go fundraise. And like this, even if they have a cut from that 50%, at least they'll know how to compensate. And that's exactly what happened a couple of years later. Even that 50% got cut down to 30-something%. That was an Adam Gadol who was able to see 10 steps ahead. A similar story that I do know from personal sources is there was a very wealthy, he's alive and well, Hashem should keep him alive and well forever, because this guy is the Amudat Tzedakah Chesed, who when one of the Reshaim in Israel formed a coalition and they cut back like crazy on the money of the yeshivot, he went into Rav Shach and said, what do we need their favors for, always begging for budgets and that. I have enough money, I'll support all the yeshivot in Israel forever, don't worry about it. I think he told them between him and two other names, all three one from Brooklyn, one from the Five Towns, and one from Monsey. 3 guys, they're going to support all the yeshivot forever. Because we have more money than the Israeli government, that's what he told Rav Shach. Which might be true, by the way. I don't know if he was exaggerating. Rav Shach didn't agree, and he told him the same reason. He said, I hope you're always rich, and you always have. But number one, the Jewish community is going to grow, and the yeshivot are going to grow, and there's going to be a bigger need. And there's no guarantee that you'll grow accordingly. And then he also added in another thing. He said, number two, it's good for other Jews to also have part of the mitzvah. And on this, I don't know if I said this or not, but somebody told me, somewhere that I was, maybe I said it that week, I don't remember. When he was in New York raising money, there used to be, it doesn't exist anymore, a Jewish theater on the Lower East Side. He went outside the Jewish theater, which was far from anything Jewish or kosher, and he stood and embarrassed himself like a beggar, asking people for tzedakah. And they would throw into his hand coins, little coins. And people are angry that he's doing this because they're like, "What, Rebbe, we'll give you the money. Don't embarrass yourself." And he said, "I don't need their coins. It doesn't even add up to anything." He said, "But these guys that are going to the theater, they have nothing. When they're going to come to Olam Haba, they're going to be in serious trouble. At least this way, they'll be able to say, we gave Branovich Yeshiva a few dollars, and maybe that'll give them something to tip the scale." And for that, he was willing to humiliate himself, to go just to take coins like a homeless, like a beggar, to give another Jew a schut, to maybe give a few dollars to charity, to support Branovich Yeshiva. So that was Rav Shach's second case, that we have to give other people an opportunity as well. By the way, years later, Rav Yosef added on to this a third case. He says the only reason why the Israeli government exists is not natural. Derech HaTeva, the Israeli government shouldn't be in existence. We have 120 billion Muslims, Yimach Shemam Imayin Ara, surrounding us, and they all want to see us in the ocean. And in reality, Am Yisrael Chai V'Kayam, where the empire of technology, soon going to be the empire of the world in energy, the empire of medicine, most advanced in certain areas like cardio and certain areas in neurology, and in many other areas we're catching up quickly. And we're a country that's all of 70 years old, meaning a baby country. We have a rock-solid economy with a low unemployment rate, with a high wealth per capita rate, and it's just going to get better and better and better soon. It makes no sense. A military that might be very strong, but at the same time, very limited amount of soldiers. And with the amount of enemies that we have near us, just the Hezbollah, if one day they're bored and decide to shoot their arsenal at Israel, in 1 hour, Israel's flat. There is no Israel. It's gone. And they hate us. And they keep on saying they're going to do it, but they never do it. So what's going on over here? It's a lot more than that. They don't even have to shoot their missiles. Let them just send their kids to the border of Israel, and each one should spit once, and we'll all drown in their saliva. That's how many of them they are, to put things in perspective. So what's going on is that Hashem made that the Israeli government should give money to yeshivot, even though they don't understand what they're doing and why they're doing it. And now, even though they don't mean it, they have a zchut Torah. And the zchut Torah saves them and protects them. And no matter what their enemies are going to try to do, they'll always fail. And Israel will always come out on top. And the UN, Yimach Shemam, could pass as many resolutions as they want against us, and it won't help them. Soon the UN is going to be bankrupted all, because America used to support the whole thing, and now they're, thank God, pulling out all the money, finally. But in the meantime, morally bankrupt they were from the day they opened. But financially bankrupt, that wouldn't hurt either. But they pass resolution after resolution after resolution against us, day in, day out, day in, day out. And it doesn't get them nowhere. It's funny, there was a while that they wanted to pass a trade embargo against Israel. And then at the end, they stopped it. They stopped it officially because America and a few other countries were going to veto anyway, so it wouldn't go through. That's the narrative that's said, at least on a simple Google search. But if you do a little bit of a deeper investigation, that wasn't the truth. It's true that America would have stopped it either way, but that wasn't the reason why they stopped it. They stopped it because they quickly realized that the largest generic pharmaceutical manufacturer of the world is an Israeli company, that 40% of modern technology comes from Israel, and all the resources of agriculture come from Israel. And if there's a trade embargo with Israel, then the whole world can't function. It just shuts down in 24 hours. So, what trade embargo? I love these guys who say that we should boycott Israeli products. I agree with them. They should stop using cellular phones, because every cellular phone works on Israeli processors. They should stop using computers, because all Intel chips are Israeli technology. They should stop going to get angiograms, because that's done today on Israeli technology. And I can go on for hours on the list. They should stop doing everything pretty much, because it's all Israeli technology. And when they boycotted SodaStream, right, that was the big thing that they thought they accomplished. They boycotted SodaStream. Any of you guys read the financial news lately and saw what an exit SodaStream just made? That was God laughing in BDS's face. He said, thanks for the boycott, you just made the price triple. Idiots. But this, where does this come from? This doesn't come from them. This comes from a chesed Hashem, and Hashem doesn't give free passes, you have to earn it. And even though they don't mean it, and even though maybe their intentions are not pure, but at the end of the day, there's 160, 170,000 people sitting and learning Torah, Yomam V'Layla over there, and the government contributes a lot towards it, whether it's yeshivot or other budgets that they give and other things that they help out with, and that gives them a protection. That gives them a protection. And that's why they have a koach, a big koach. And really and if they wouldn't do the stupid things, then they would have a bigger koach. Like if they could stop fighting with each other already, and maybe getting along a little better, and bridging gaps instead of making bigger gaps, then that would definitely benefit the whole of Klal Yisrael a lot better on many fronts. I don't know if the story is true or not true, but they claim that Reagan once asked the prime minister in Israel, why is it that he has like 200 million citizens, and he says it's a 50-50 split more or less between Democrats and Republicans, but at the end of the day, the ruling government keeps things under control. Because you're a country of a few million citizens, and the whole thing's in chaos every 2.5 years, elections, and this is insane. Come on, get a grip of your own country. So the prime minister, I don't remember who it was, they say incident. He said, because you have 200 million citizens, I have 5 million prime ministers. It's the Jewish mind, right? In Israel, every cab driver is convinced that he would do a better job than the prime minister. Convinced. Not that he's not sure. He's 100% convinced beyond reasonable doubt. If he would be the prime, everything would be perfect. That's Hashem gave the Jewish mind always to run. Hashem gave it to us so we should constantly be learning more and gaining more knowledge and be an encyclopedia of productive things. But other people use it for other reasons, whatever. They don't mean bad. That's the schut, the koach HaTorah. And that's the koach HaSukkah, the protection of Am Yisrael and the koach HaSukkah. That's a big, big lesson, and it's a big chizuk. It's a big schut and chesed that Hashem gives us and does for Am Yisrael with this thing that we have this opportunity to really be b'tzilad b'neimutat, to be in God's shadow for such an extended period of time, and to be surrounded by such great blessing and such a great opportunity that's beyond everything that goes on. What happens to the one who does sacrifice from his spiritual growth to giving to others? It's dangerous, because it's going to be, when am I going to do for my house? Right? So, of course, everybody has to do a Sheilat Rav, and there's many criteria in Halakha. Moshe Feinstein and Rav Shach both wrote years ago already that a person should do 90% of the time for himself, and 10% he should give for others. Certain Yechidim can do otherwise, but based on Piskei Halakha from Gedolei Yisrael. But there's a very interesting thing. This I heard myself once from Maran Rav Shach Zatzal, who said it over in the name of the Khatam Sofer. I'm sure it says it somewhere in the Khatam Sofer, but I don't know all the Khatam Sofer Sfarim Bahar word for word, so I didn't find it yet inside. But when I spoke to other Talmidei Chachamim, they also told me they remember such a Khatam Sofer. Nobody had showed it to me. If somebody knows where it is, please show it to me. I'd be glad to see it inside. But they bring down from the Khatam Sofer that he proves from many Ma'amarei Chazal that HaKadosh Baruch Hu won't cause a person to lose from something good that he does, right? Shomel mitzvah lo yeda davar ra. So if a person gives up for himself for the sake of other people, so now technically he's losing out. So Hashem says He's going to give him a special siyata d'shmaya, that in a much shorter amount of time than normal people can accomplish the same thing, he'll be able to make the same accomplishments. People think that the reason why the Gedolei Yisrael became Gedolei Yisrael was because they were brilliant. That's not true. The leaders of Am Yisrael became leaders because they were those who were willing to give to the nation. Once they were willing to give to the nation, Hashem gave them a huge gift of brilliance that they were able to learn in a short amount of time what other people would take them tens of years to learn. And that was a compensation for the time that they're losing based on their self-sacrifice towards others. It goes the other way around. That's the way it goes. And we see it clearly by many people that there's no way to explain how they know what they know. I think it's a special siyat d'shmaya that's given, that the Shmuel Hu gives a person, that when a person's willing to give. You see Rav Preda, what's a big example in that? The Gemara says about Rabbi Preda, he was willing to teach a student 400 times, right? In the famous story that once he went even 800 times. And Rav Preda was able to bring him and his whole generation to Olam Haba. That means really he sacrificed his Olam Haba to a certain extent, because he could have learned so much more. But instead Hashem said, not only didn't you sacrifice, I actually give you what you would have got, plus I double and triple it so many times over that you get so much more. But all of this comes, again, from what I stress, from the idea of Yasu Kulam Aguda Achat and Aporei Sukkot Shalom. If we're missing those foundations, the basic foundations of peace and unity, then nothing works. If we got peace and unity, then everything works. Dora Pilaga, as long as they still got along with each other, even and they went to fight God, is worse than Avodah Zarah. Hashem couldn't stop them. When was he able to stop them, Kaviyachol? Once they started fighting with each other. They made 70 languages, they didn't understand each other, they started fighting, there wasn't peace, now we were able to do something. That means that as long as there's Achdus in Am Yisrael, then nobody has any power over the Jewish nation. And by the way, if you look at Israel, all these wars that they won against all odds, one of the reasons for sure is, besides the Achzakat Torah, is that during time of war, Jews unite. They come through for each other in very extreme ways. And that Achdut brings a huge limud zchut in Shamayim, and that limud zchut in Shamayim causes that Hashem makes nisim me'al teva. And in one of the wars, the Shabak interrogators, when they took Syrian prisoners of war, then they interrogated them. They asked them, you were on top of the Golan, we were on the bottom. You had the power, we didn't. You were winning, we were losing. And suddenly you all ran away. Why'd you run away? Number two, once you ran away, they all ran away, but there was a weird thing. They left their boots behind. Why'd you leave your boots? You don't go running away without boots. When you run, you need your boots. So they told them that according to the Muslim religion, when you see an angel, they think they see angels, no? Then you have to take off your shoes. And he said, we saw swarms and swarms of white angels coming towards us and telling us to leave. So we had to take off our boots and run away. So who won the war, the IDF or Hashem with an ace? Not that I'm downplaying the IDF, they're tzaddikim, these kids that give their lives on the borders every day and risk their lives on the borders every day. That's why we pray for them all the time, and we respect them greatly. And we, God forbid, don't talk against them, and those who do, Hashem should help themselves. But, and that has nothing to do with being a Zionist. First of all, Chaim Volozhin once said that he's a big Zionist. This is before the Zionistic movement. So they said, what do you mean? They said, I say all the time, Beshuv Hashem and Shivat Zion, Ayinu Kecholmim. I'm waiting to go back to Eretz Yisrael with the Beit Mikdash. So that type of Zionist we are. But Zionist, the way they translate it, no, we can do without. You know, I won't cry if the Israeli Supreme Court decides to dismantle itself. It won't be a bad thing. It might be a good thing. We'll leave a Bezdin instead. It'll be a better choice. But and the American Supreme Court, all this comedy that's going on, even more. But yeah, it's amazing. It's literally amazing the way the quote-unquote largest empire of the world could run like one big circus, and everybody goes along with it too. That's the craziness. There's not one normal person left. Somebody say, "Hello, wake up." Maybe it's time to grow up already. There's not one mature figure left. Nobody, nothing. Not one person with a resume of accomplishment. Actually, just bickering. Who fought more? Who fought harder? Who played dirtier tactics? That's what we're down to. That's the level of ethics and morals in the world now. That's it. That's the leaders. Who fought harder? Who pulled a dirtier stunt? Who made a better deal? That's what's left. Instead of showing a resume of what you did for people, what you accomplished for people, how you bettered people's lives, how you made the world a healthier place. You know, I'm in the pharmaceutical. I was in the pharmaceutical industry for a long time, on the medical end of it, before I went into the fashion end of it. And I want to tell you, if you know the way pharmacy runs on the back end, I'm talking about from the federal level, on what's approved and what's not, you would not believe that you're living in a free country. You would think you're living in worse than a communist country. The decisions of what medications go out are based on lobbies. that are based on profits, that are based on the government interests and the tax interests, and more corrupt things that I don't want to say because I'm being recorded. That's literally what goes on. And mysteriously, anybody who came up with a good cure for cancer in the past 25 years either ended up in prison or vanished. Because chemotherapy raises hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue, and we can't stop it. It's a great source for the economy. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's true. It's unfortunate, but it's true. I remember sitting in one of these lobby debates, a closed-door lobby debate. Today I'm not in that part of the industry, so I couldn't care less. I could say it openly. And the fight was over medical marijuana and putting pressure to legalize it federally or not. And one of the largest pharmacy lobbies was fighting strongly against it. And their case wasn't that it's a drug or it's addictive. Nobody cared about any of that. To them, to write opiates all day was no problem. They encouraged it, if anything. And that's 10,000 times more dangerous and more addictive. They said because it heals too many things at once. What's the pharmacy industry going to do? That was the case. That's called a country that lost any morals. There's no morals left. Zero, zero, zero. Life has no value. To better people's lives is not a goal. It's just a power struggle. Who's going to be the bigger bully? And they happen to, you haven't paid attention, the majority of politicians wear red ties. You pay attention to that? You ever thought why? There's no coincidence in the world. I'm sure it's not their fashion guys that are telling them to do it. Red and blue. So I always thought it's because they wear white shirts or the American colors, so it looks good in the things. But one day I thought to myself a new cynical comment. I don't think there's any truth to this, but in bullfights, you need to use red in order to stay safe. That's the way Washington operates. It's one big bullfight, and all the politicians protect themselves under a red tie. There's no truth left. There's no. And us as New Yorkers, we know that more than everybody. We have one big corrupt system from top to bottom. Yeah. But us as Jews, we have to stay in that sukkah and stay protected from that. We can't go along with the system. And that's why, to me, I'm not proud that we have Jewish lobbies and this and that. There's no pride in that. That's almost a shame. Why are we getting dirty in this place? Once a lady asked me, an Israeli professor in Bar-Ilan University, why is it that according to the halakha, a Jewish woman can't be a politician? Right? Rambam writes clearly, a Jewish woman can't be in politics. See, we're against women, we're this, we're that, I don't know, all different terms she used over there. So I told her, my humble opinion is exactly the opposite extreme. I said, let's say we would pass a law that women can't throw out the garbage. I said, would you come up and say, why isn't it that women can't throw out the garbage? No, why? Because the garbage stinks and nobody wants to throw it out. Has to be done, so we do it. I said, there's nothing in this world that stinks more than politics. So Hashem has so much respect for women that he says at least the women should be protected and they shouldn't stink from politics. We'll leave the dirty work for the men. And there's a big professor in Israel, and she was happy with the answer. Not only that, a few weeks ago, a month ago about, she put out some book about something, and I didn't read it yet, but somebody told me that she quoted me over there, and she wrote this answer, and she said that she applied this in many, many areas, and it made all her feministic views fall away. And she said just the opposite. There's a religion that protects women in the biggest way. If you think about it, you look into it, it's true. All the areas that are a little gray or whatever, finally Hashem says, no, that's not for the gentle soul of a female. It's an unbelievable thing. Unbelievable thing. That's part one. Part one was, I think, obvious, right? Because Torah Tchilata Chesed V'Sofa Chesed, that's always what we talk about. Part two is I want to tell you a little incident that I had on Friday. They gave me a great life lesson about what it means to be dignified. And maybe to you it's going to sound very simple and shallow, but put yourself in that position and we'll see how you would have behaved. I was in the grocery store like probably most Jewish people were on Friday, right? It's a holiday, all we do is shop and shop more and eat more, and shop even more. the amount of food that Jewish homes consumed in the past few days is like, Baruch Hashem bli ayin hara. Good business to go into right after Yom Tov. Might be diet pills, but or at least a necessary business. So I'm in a store, and it's a big store, large store, and the lines are like, I don't know how to describe it at all. I never seen lines like this before. And it's not like they were lacking registers. They have, 70, 80 registers at least, if not more. Everything's open, with baggers, with this, with that, with every type of way to expedite things. And there's lines and lines and lines and lines and lines. It's really crazy what was going on. I'm waiting online, and in front of me, there's a Kollel guy, standing, hat and jacket, whatever, young daughter. And he was holding 2 items, herring and crackers. Obviously Ashkenaz. That's that's what they like. And there's a bunch of people in front of them with wagons, and I was behind them with a wagon also. Each wagon bli ayin hara, And I felt stupid for the guy. Like I almost felt like, come on, nobody has the brains to tell him to go already. Like he has 2 items, 4 seconds. I wanted to say something to the people in front of him, but then I said, you know what, maybe they're in a rush, they're not thinking, who am I to preach to others? I'm going to let it go. And I was hoping that they on their own would maybe realize that that's the right thing to do. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. That's the sad part of the story. But while he was waiting online, he got a phone call. I'm a very observant person, maybe too observant sometimes. So I pay attention to every tiny detail. He pulls out a phone that most of you never seen in your life. It doesn't have a big screen. The whole screen is less than 1 square inch, and it actually folds in half. A flip phone. Yeah, in the museums you can find them still. Just by him, it's a matter of principle. It's a kosher phone. No text, no this, no that. Can only make phone calls on it. Oh, there we go. We got one in the room. Look at that. You guys can all see. Wow. That's what it has to do. Amazing. Yeah. The youngsters today don't know what that is. What's that? It's really a novelty. They don't know what it is. It's a novelty. It's a novelty. No. So he picks up the phone. He picked up the phone. It seems like his other hand that was holding the stuff lost balance. So his plastic container of herring fell on the floor. And it didn't shatter completely, but it got a hole in it, and it made a little mess. And now it's, kind of worthless. Hazid, the poor guy, was already waiting. I was the one behind him online, so I know more or less he was waiting at least 15, 20 minutes online. And now he picked it up. And then he whispers to his daughter. I didn't hear what he said, but then I figured out what he told her. He asked her to do him 2 favors. To go to the customer service and to ask them to send somebody to clean it so nobody should slip. Because he tried cleaning it with some tissue that he had in his pocket, or whatever he had in his pocket, he couldn't. I guess it was too greasy, it didn't work. And to bring him a bag. So she did both things, young girl. Dignified, such respect for her father, unbelievable. And they cleaned it up in 3 seconds. And he took that thing and he put it in a bag and he stayed online, meaning he wanted to go pay for it and take it. Which obviously means he couldn't afford to buy an additional one, and he wasn't going to steal and not pay for something that he did damage to. Finally gets his turn online. And, before he gets his turn online. A couple of minutes later, a lady comes from behind, and she's standing like on the side of the aisle, and they're talking. So I realize it's a husband and wife. And she had a wagon with like 3, 4, 5 items maybe in it, I don't know, not much. Microscopic in comparison to all our wagons, that's for sure. And no luxury items in there either. And he kind of like told her, come bring the stuff. And she tells him, and I was able to hear because they were far apart, so it was written aloud. He said, no, it's not going to look right. These people are waiting online behind, and it's going to feel like I'm cutting into a line. I don't want to cut into a line. So now, not only did he waste 20 minutes, not only did his herring get ruined, and had an uncomfortable situation, He voluntarily leaves the line, and he's going to his wife to the back of a line, which by then built up, you know the way traffic builds up. Same thing was going on in that grocery store. Probably wait another hour for a few items. That already I couldn't see. So I turned to the people behind me, which happens to be most of them I knew. I said, does anybody really mind if this young lady joins her husband and pays for a few items when we all have these huge wagons over here? And the people were so nice about it. I said, sure, what's the question at all? Fine. The guy was very thankful. He said, thank you. The only reason why really I could have just told him to come in, right? But al pi halacha, you're not allowed to do that because the guy behind you is also waiting. So you need permission from everybody online. So I got permission. They all agreed. They come in. When he finally comes to pay, the girl by the counter, some goya, with no manners, starts giving him attitude. You're bringing me something in a bag. I can't scan it. The barcode doesn't work. To this, to that. He says, but I want to pay for it. She gets angry, takes it, she throws it in the garbage. Sugar. I told her, excuse me, ma'am, and he's like hinted to me like to shut up. I was ready to go at it already. The guy has something, he wants to pay for it. It's dignified enough that he's paying for it. He's honest enough. Like, what is this? He didn't say a word. He's quiet. I don't know if he charged and didn't charge. I don't know what happened there exactly. But the way it works in that store is they want to know, I guess, who you are, how much you shop, so they ask you for your phone number. So I did something, I don't know if halacha is right or wrong, but I couldn't hold myself back. One day he said his phone number, I put it in my phone. Because I said, I have to find out who this Jew is. So to be able to be embarrassed twice in a row, and to be so honest and so dignified in so many ways, Erev Shabbat, during a holiday when you're under pressure, and very obvious also that it's not a man of means, so it's not like he's going to be able to compensate for it or anything else. It was a good, big wake-up call to the way people should behave. Big wake-up call to the way people should behave. So I took the number of my phone. And then they left. I paid for my stuff. I left. I went into the car. And when I got home, I'm carrying in boxes. I had a few boxes of food that I bought. And I was embarrassed. I'm like, poor guy, everything he went through today. And he didn't even come out what he went for. And here I'm carrying boxes. And it's not right. He's the good man. He's the one who should have this, not me. It doesn't make sense. So I went into some app that I have from the local town. I put in his phone number. His name came up. I asked my kids, you know what this is? So my kid said, yeah, that was my first grade teacher in English, that family name. I told him the address. Yeah, that's my... So you know who they are? Said, no, this is a good teacher. The wife, not the father. She was a good teacher, he said. I said, kids, let's do the right thing. And I told him the whole story. Went back to the store. I don't know anything about herring. It's not in my DNA. But I try to match up the colors as well as I can. And Hashem did a big favor to me. When I went back, there was no lines anymore. It was relatively quick. Got out quickly. And then I went to buy a few candy platters and other things. And I wrote a nice card and I said, I didn't want them to think I'm giving them charity. It's like, that wasn't the goal at all. I felt that if somebody teaches you something, they deserve recognition. I wrote them a card, even though on Chol Hamoed you're not supposed to write, but I thought this was considered a tzorech mitzvah and a davar ha'aved, that it was right to write. And I said, you're the most dignified people I've ever seen in my life. I learned a lot from you, and I'll forever be grateful for the lessons I learned of how to behave, even under uncomfortable circumstances. P.S. There's no reason you shouldn't have herring for Shabbat. Sorry, I don't know much about it. I hope this will work. And I dropped it off at the house. But this happened Friday at maybe 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I couldn't stop thinking about it since. It seems like a trivial story, like, oh, big deal. Let's think how many times we do cut lines. And how many times we brag, I know the guy, so I don't have to wait online. We brag about it. It's like, this is a good thing. And how many times we knock over things in stores and don't think of gzela and you have to pay for it. You did damage, pay for the damage that you did. And how many times, if somebody would go give us a heart, if a cash register would throw something else from us, she might get a fist. Or close to it, at least in words. And how many times? And so how many incidents in the course of a few minutes that could have went wrong, that didn't go wrong in one person? Like challenge after challenge, test after test after test after test after that. And all together, boom, and passed them all in one shot. And it was an eye-opener. As simple as it is, yes, you can live a dignified life, if you choose so. I credited a lot to that phone that I spoke about. He's not corrupted by what we are. So he could still think like a human. We're so corrupted by everything that we're watching and playing and doing and this and that we don't think like people anymore. We think like bulldozers. By him, life is still simple. And in simple life, okay, so I have to wait another 20 minutes. Nothing happened. The world's not going to end. It's an unbelievable thing. I think that's a great lesson in human dignity. And Derech Eretz Kadma Torah. After HOSHANA RABA, the next holiday is Shmini Atzeret. There's a lot of power in that holiday. In America, we get another day that we call Simchat Torah. In Israel, it's one day. They don't have a second day. It's Shmini Atzeret. Torah is the same thing, but one way or the other. Simchat Torah is a day that we rejoice with the Torah. In order to rejoice with the Torah, you can't rejoice with something that's the opposite of you. My uncle Nissim a lot of times used to say, I saw him do it live many times. You would see a guy get an aliyah on Shabbat in shul, and the guy is a known mechalel Shabbat, drives to shul, and he would go with him. He would stop the Kriyat Torah, and he would turn the pages, bring it back to Parashat Yitro, Torah Aseret Dibrot, and he would say, read. Zachor et Yom HaShabbat lekadsho, mechalelei amot yumat. He would say, what are you going up to the Torah for? And then he had a good quote. There's a quote that should stick with people on many fronts. Everybody goes kissing the Torah, right? Kissing the Torah. He said the Torah, he says, you want to know what the Sefer Torah is responding when you're all kissing it? It's crying and it's telling you one thing, don't kiss me, listen to me. I don't need you to kiss me, I'll do without your kisses. Just listen to what it says. Big lesson. That was Rav Nissim with his sharp way of giving things over. Don't kiss me, listen to me. And he would ask the people, he would say, here, one page it says you got to keep Shabbat, and the next page you pick, what are you doing? Where do you belong? Which part of this is yours? Which part of this isn't yours? Which part? He had many stories like that. He had many stories like that. I remember one. What time is it? Sorry, I don't know the watch. 2:20. I remember one. We went to the Kotel once. I'm listening didn't go to the Kotel a lot because he said the Kotel is a holy place. You have to prepare yourself before you go. On rare occasions he would go. One time he said, "Let's go to the Kotel." So it was a big, celebration when he went. And we came to the Kotel. It was daytime. Normally like going at night. That time it happened to be by day. And I'm sure all of you were by the Kotel at one point or the other. When you walk in down to go to the Kotel on the left side, what do you got? Big booth with a Chabad guy. By now it's a few Chabad guys that come running to you. Did you put on tefillin today yet? Right? And if you pay attention, most people, they put on tefillin. Used to be they would ask, are you Jewish? Now, today that's considered politically incorrect, so I think some goyim maybe get tefillin also over there. But one way or the other, this is the way they do it, they're fine. So we're walking down, and there's an Israeli guy in front of us who's walking down also. He had a long ponytail that I remember. And the Chabad guy went over to him and told him, Yehudi Yakar, he was very nice to him. My beloved Jew. Did you put on tefillin today? He said, no. He said, maybe come for a minute and put on tefillin. It's 1 minute, put it on. Shema Yisrael, take it off. He said, no, I'm not putting it on. So he was trying to convince him. So he told him in Hebrew, Ulai b'chol zot, maybe anyway, think again. No. Then the Israeli guy got angry at him, at the Chabad guy, and he yells at him, he says, Lo ma'amin b'shtuyot ha'elah. I don't believe in this stupidity. Leave me alone. That guy got a little taken aback. He left him alone. My uncle saw this from behind, and he tells me, Yaakov, this is not going by quietly. I just got to find the right second to get him. But this he's not getting away with. So we went to pray by the kotel. Suddenly he sees him from far. He was keeping an eye on him the whole time. I don't know if my uncle was looking more at his Tehillim or this guy, but it was like back and forth. Suddenly he sees him go up to the wall, put his hands on the wall, and kiss the wall. My uncle closes Tehillim, gives it to me, and says, give me a minute. I quickly went to follow. I had to see what was going to happen. And this guy's kissing the wall, and he pulls him by his ponytail. Grabs his ponytail, pulls him back. Away from the wall like that. The guy turned around. Nissim wasn't scared. Things like this can end up with knives in Israel. But he wasn't scared of nobody. The guy says, what do you want from me? He says, I want you not to kiss the wall. He says, why not? He said, I'm not a doctor, but I know a lot of doctors. And doctors tell me that people that go around kissing walls need psychiatric units. And in public, people see, you want to show you that you're crazy in public? So he says, what do you mean? It's the kotel. He said, what kotel? It's a wall, no? Kotel means wall in Hebrew. It's a wall. So he says, but it's a holy wall. He says, who said it's holy? He said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He said, you just yelled at the Chabad guy before. You don't believe in it. So make up your mind. If the kotel is holy, so there's a God. If there's a God, He gave the Torah. If He gave the Torah, you have to put on tefillin. And if not, don't kiss the wall. And if you do, I'm putting you in a psychiatric unit. Forced hospitalization. And the guy was like in shock, and after a few seconds, he said, come, let's go put on tefillin. And he went to put on tefillin. And he kept in touch with my uncle. He ended up being a Shomer Torah Mitzvot. It took him a while, but he ended up becoming a full Shomer Torah Mitzvot. Unbelievable story. But that came from the care and the love and everything of a Jew. That came from the care. And there's nobody who's ever lost. Sometimes we think, that guy has no hope. This one has no hope. He went so far. Recently we saw on YouTube, not the best place to get info, but I even sent it out as a broadcast because I thought there was a great lesson to learn from it. Exactly what it means. A young boy who was an ex-yeshiva boy who took a video of himself burning his own tefillin. And you would think somebody like that has no hope anymore. Who burned tefillin? The Nazis in World War II burned tefillin. For a Jew to burn tefillin and take a video of it and broadcast it, how proud he is. And now, less than 2 years later, he's back a regular Shomer Torah Mitzvah, Tshuva Shlema, and he does everything he can to be mechazik others. And what changed? Nobody yelled at him, nobody threatened him. He got a lot of death threats for what he did, because even the non-religious, that's a red line they don't cross. But that didn't work anything. That made him do even crazier things afterwards. He was even more provocative afterwards. Then one day, there was a very simple, innocent rabbi in Israel, named Rav Cohen, Bal Tshuva, my father. I caught him somewhere, gave him a big hug and kiss, and told him, you're such a tzaddik. He said, what tzaddik? I'm the guy who burns tefillin. He says, that means you're even a bigger tzaddik. You're such a man of truth that you're not scared to show exactly who you are. And like this, he gave him a lot of TLC, which he probably never got at home. And the kid got drawn in, and one night decided to come to a shiur, and from one shiur to another shiur. And after a few nights of some love, he got on stage one day and apologized in public, and then put out a whole video apologizing in public, and relearned Judaism the right way and became a Shomer Torah Mitzvot. So if somebody who burns tefillin could become a Shomer Torah Mitzvot again, and today he's influential in being mechazik other Jews, then everybody has hope. Nobody's lost. Ki lo yidach mimenu nidach. Everybody has hope in every situation in life. And that's really the whole message behind HOSHANA RABA. That Kadosh Baruch Hu tells Am Yisrael, even if Rosh Hashanah went by and didn't go by so well, and even if Yom Kippur went by and it didn't go by so well, and even if maybe Sukkot started going by and there were ups and downs along the way, and even still, don't give up. Don't think that it's lost. Nothing's lost. You still got Anna Hashem HOSHANA. You still have tonight. You still have tomorrow. You still have an opportunity, a great opportunity. You take yourself in your hands. You take a tehillim. You say some tehillim. You daven to Hashem. You talk to him in your own language, and it works. And it works. A Meilech Biederman that I love quoting from as much as I can. And it's easy to quote from him because I get a lot of WhatsApp clips from him, so I'm updated on everything he says all the time that way. Not everything, but a lot of things he says. He said over, he's constantly saying over stories about, like, to emphasize the strength of koach tefillah. Chaim. He's constantly saying over all different stories to emphasize koach tefillah. So, and each one's better than the next. So I'm going to tell you the most recent one, not because it's the best. I don't know how to rate the stories if they're the best or not, but mainly because it's the most recent that I heard. And he said the names and the dates and everything, but I remember the date. I don't remember the names. I don't think it makes a difference. He said it over in Beit Shemesh now, Chol HaMoed Sukkot. He said the story happened on Chaf Sivan. That was the date, this year, Chaf Sivan. Because he has a student, and when he said the story, he said he's in this crowd. The crowd was thousands, so I don't know, I think he said the name of the student even, who was marrying off a daughter. Pshat Tova. This guy's not a man of means, so to marry off a daughter, even if you are a man of means, is not exactly easy. But definitely, if you're not a man of means, it's a very big financial, it's hard. People get into debt over it, and it's not easy. It's very, very hard. And with all the help of all organizations and everything, it's still a big test. So this guy obviously did everything simple and whatever, but even that, he was barely able to swing. But Hashem made nisim after nisim. His friends helped him, and this and that. Different people helped him, and somehow he was able to pull through more or less. A little debt, a little borrowing, but he was able to somehow make it through. Somehow survived. Then it came the Shabbat before the wedding. This guy's Ashkenaz. The Shabbat before the wedding by the Ashkenaz, they do an ofruf. That's the boy's side does it, and the girl doesn't attend. And the girl in her house, just for her friends, it's a female-only event. They call it a Shabbat Kala. So Friday afternoon, when the father's getting ready to go to his future son-in-law's family for their boys' Shabbat, his daughter comes to him and says, "Daddy, I was by a wedding last night, and I saw that the Kala had a beautiful, beautiful chair with flowers and this and that. It was really gorgeous, and I want a chair like that. Get me a chair like that for the wedding. It's very important to me. I want to feel like a queen, and then I'm Kala." And he nicely told her, "I'm sorry, my dear daughter, I would love to do it for you, but I don't have money." He said, "I used on this wedding and on everything you needed, even what I don't have. I'm going to be in debt for years now for this. And this is a big expense. And I don't have money for it. Not only that, we live in Israel, and in Israel it's not even customary. By us, we have a smorgasbord, the kalasis. In Israel, they don't do that. They get straight to the point. They put up 4 poles with a chuppah and have a good day. They don't even put chairs. You get a chair for dinner, that's it. And that's even in fancy weddings. Now, there's nothing to do with rich or poor. It's just not the way they do it. The Americans that move to Israel, or the Americans that make weddings in Israel, they do it differently. Or maybe the French also. But the Israelis don't. That's the way they do weddings. It's like you could be by a wedding and you could be talking to your friend on the side, and you didn't even realize, and they had a chuppah, and the chuppah's over, and you didn't know it happened at all. And that's normal. There's nothing odd about that. So here, it's not only that she's asking for something that he can't afford, she's asking for something that's also weird. It's also different than what her friends do. So the father tells, number one, it's not something that your friends do at all. Number two, even if it was something that your friends do, I simply can't afford it. I don't have the means to do anything. So she told her father, but to me it's important, so what should I do? So the father felt bad, it's the hardest test for a father to have to tell his kid no, right? So the father told his daughter, listen, if your own father can't come through, you have a better father. Hashem in Shamayim. Ask him, maybe he'll do it for you. I don't know what to do. That's the best I can tell you. She was happy with that answer. She wished him off well, wished him a happy Shabbat, he wished her back, a good Shabbat with her friends, and Shabbat started. They had a great time. She had a great time with her friends. Shabbat afternoon, she told her friends that they should all leave. She needs time for herself. But they figured a kala needs to rest before the wedding, whatever. She went into her bedroom. She took a Tehillim and read the entire book of Tehillim, beginning to end. And at the end of reading the Tehillim, after 2 hours, she davened to Hashem and said, "Ribono shel olam, I want to have a nice kala chair and that. And my father said he can't do it for me. You're the father of all kalot. You're the father of all people, of all Jews. Send me a nice kala chair that I should feel good about myself. It's important to me. That's what I'm asking for. Help me." That's it. Story over. Motzei Shabbat, life goes on as usual, as if nothing happened, and this wasn't a spoken subject. I don't know what day of the year Chaf Sivan was this week, but I'm sure any of you on your apps can check it in 1 second, but it doesn't make a difference. She got married in a hall, I don't remember the name, but Mailach said the name of the hall. And in Israel, this is very common. I think in Queens you have some halls like that too. That you have more than one hall in one place, different floors or whatever. But in Israel, it's very common. Almost all wedding halls are like that. Versailles, the terrible tragedy that happened as a result. At one floor, the wedding hall collapsed into another floor. Terrible tragedy. Tragedy that David HaMelech predicted in Tehillim years before in Perek Ein. Yeah, you don't know. You didn't know that David HaMelech predicted that tragedy down to the tiniest detail? Give me a Tehillim, I'll show you. Is that a Tehillim? I see something interesting, no? Maybe this will wake one person up to have a kosher wedding. It'll be worth it. Remember the details of that story? Most of you are too young, probably. There was a hall called Lamei Versailles. It had 3 floors. One of the floors collapsed into another floor in the middle of a dancing by a wedding. And it caused tragedy, injuries, death, and many other things. What was the reason why the floor collapsed? Palkal. See, he's Israeli, he knows. Turns out, how does a hall work? Let's take this room. This room, I don't know when the tables are set how much it could fit, but let's say about 100 people, more or less. I'm assuming this looks like a 10 round table room. But if you would have pillars here, supporting pillars in the middle of the room, so suddenly your table capacity goes down drastically, and there's no room for a dance floor. So a hall that could otherwise be rented for $500 or $800 is now worth $200. So obviously every hall is built with architectural ways to have the least amount of supporting pillars possible, definitely not in the center of the hall, because they can maximize the space and the utilization, which puts up the value of the hall greatly. This guy bought a structure years before, and it was already built. It was built with supporting pillars. Then they came out with this thing called palkal, which is some sort of way of making a ceiling lighter, and if it's lighter, then technically you need less supporting pillars, and I don't know the science behind it. I'm not an architect or an engineer, but I'm giving you some watered down, rough, made up variation of it. That's more or less the idea in a very simplistic way. And he decided that he's going to put this palkal and he's going to move away a few pillars. And like this is, he'll gain another floor, another hole on the floor. That's a better hole that'll be worth more money. Turns out those pillars needed to be there. And because it didn't, the ceiling on top collapsed and went through and it caused a terrible, terrible tragedy. That was the dynamics of that wedding. But now let's get into more graphic details. There was a wedding revolves around the bride and a groom. So what was the groom's name at the wedding? His name was Asaf. You can check this in a simple Google search afterwards. What was the bride's name? Karen. Those are the names. So let's read a Perek in Tehillim, Perek Ein Hey. Again, when did the floor collapse? While they were by dancing. There's a video of it on YouTube. You could see actually the whole thing happening. They picked up the kala on a chair. They had mixed dancing. Picked up the kala on a chair, and the floor went down. That's exactly when it happened. You could see this. There's a video of it. I have the video, and you can find it yourself on YouTube. You put in Ason Versailles in YouTube, and you'll see it'll come up. So listen. This is a bunch of years ago. This is the Perek in Tehillim. Lamnatzeach al tashchet. David HaMelech prays, God, please don't make destruction. Mizmor, he's saying this prayer for who? Le'asaf shir. For somebody who's going to be named Asaf. I'm skipping a pasuk just because it's not applicable. Ki ekach moed, there'll be when the time will come that I'll decide to take. Ani meisharim eshpot, I will bring justice, judgment. Nimogim eretz v'chol yoshvea, the floor will collapse with the people that are on it. Why is the floor going to collapse? Ki anochi, I God decided, tikanti amudei asela, decided where they're going to build the pillars. Okay, up there you'll still say it's a coincidence, right? Amalti laholelim, I told those who are dancing, al taholu, don't dance. Why? Because larashaim, you're doing something that's resha, that's a sin, mixed dancing. And what part of the mixed dancing are you doing at that point? Al tarimu Karen. Don't pick up Karen. And there's a tragedy that could have ended up much, much worse than it was. much worse than it was, and there's a big nis. It still was a terrible tragedy, Shem Yerachim. But the big nis happened that it didn't end up a lot worse than it could have been. The big nis happened. Fine. So you see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Tehillim already wrote the way you should plan your wedding or not. Maybe this will influence one person either not to make such a wedding or not to go to such a wedding one time, and the whole night was worth it. One time. But anyway, back to Rav Biderman. So this girl reads the whole Tehillim. She says, Motzei Shabbat. It's an unspoken subject. She got married in a hall in Beit Shemesh. She said the name, I forget the name, but that has 2 floors. Her wedding was on the 2nd floor. The same night there was another wedding on the ground floor. Now, the hall is a nice hall, but in a nice hall you could make an expensive wedding, but you could also make a cheap wedding. So her wedding was a cheap wedding. They didn't have money. Downstairs, the same night, there was a very rich American guy who decided that he wants to make a wedding in Beit Shemesh because most of his family lives in Beit Shemesh. And he wanted to make a wedding there. The problem is he's used to wealthy American standards, not Israeli whatever weddings. So he hired the most expensive party planner in the whole Israel. Rav Biderman didn't say who it was, but I happen to know who it is. I'm not here to give her plugs, but talented woman. And he told her there's no budget. He had to overcompensate because he wanted it to be American style. And he gave her the whole rundown, and she happens to be a European woman, a British woman, so she knows the way we do things. Fancy this and fancy that, and chuppah with chairs and flowers and this. There's no end to the imagination. No end. And obviously, what's the first emphasis on? The Kala's podium by the smorgasbord, because by the Americans it's a whole big deal. So he warned her in every way, shape, or form the way it has to be. And of course, these party planners work on markups, so the more he spends, the more she makes. He loved the idea. She loved the idea. Sure, anything he said, yes. She's working days before, renting the hall a few days before, to be able to prepare for this grandiose wedding. She had one technical problem along the way. That she forgot to ask the owner of the hall which floor she's supposed to set up on. And she made an assumption that the fancy wedding is on the 2nd floor because it's a better view. And she set up this whole fancy production on the 2nd floor. What's even crazier, that this rich American is a Hasidic Jew. Some Hasidic Jews don't get married on the date Chav Sivan, for different reasons. So what do? Some don't get married at all at the end of the month of Sivan, but this one, some Hasidim get married at the end of Sivan, but not on Chav Sivan. So he said he's going to make his chuppah at 9 o'clock at night. Like this, it's already Chaf Aleph Sivan, it's after sunset, it's the next day. This other girl came from a Litvish family. They make weddings Chav Sivan. Her chuppah was called for 6 p.m. She comes in 5:45. In Israel, there's no pictures. They don't do these things. Pictures are done on old-fashioned phone, maybe. Or they don't have those phones even. So on a camera with still Polaroid, maybe. I don't know. She comes in. She sees not a kalat chair. She sees a production of a lifetime. Her father knows it. He goes to the hall guy and he says, we made up on 15,000 shekel wedding. What's this? One table of flowers here probably cost the whole bill that I made up with you on. So I'll tell you the truth, I don't know. I thought you said, I'm not billing you for this. This is a private company. Who's the company? He tells it, points to the lady who's in charge, the party planner. He goes over to the party planner and he tells her, who's paying for it? I don't got money for this. I didn't ask for this. Well, what's going on over here? So she says, isn't your name so-and-so? He says, no, my name is a different name. He says, oh my God. And then she picks up her mistake. That this was all supposed to happen downstairs. Now what's she going to do? She has no choice but to call up this American rich man and to tell him what's going on. And she tells him the whole story. She said, I don't know how to explain it. It's the weirdest thing in the world. I'm working here for a few days. The owner of the hall didn't tell me a word. Nobody said a word. And it's my fault. If you want to hold me accountable and make me pay for the losses, at the end of the day, I feel bad for your daughter and for your wedding. What do you want me to do? He said, the closest thing I could do is I could bring in emergency in half an hour from now, a huge crew. and we could try to disassemble as much as we can from the upstairs and reassemble it downstairs. It won't be perfect, but it'll be 80%, 90% good. And this amazing Jew, this rich, wealthy American Jew, now we understand why Hashem made him rich, tells her, what are you, crazy? You're going to embarrass a kala upstairs now and take apart her party? No way in the world. If Hashem blinded you for 3 days, it's because Hashem decided in Shemayim that she should have a fancy wedding. And Hashem decided in Shemayim that my daughter doesn't need a fancy wedding. And who am I to be smarter than Hashem? Hashem gave me a great merit that on the night of my daughter's wedding, I could go make another kala happy. So I'm not upset at you. Don't be worried about your money. You'll get paid in full and everything. Just do me a favor. See if you can make a few phone calls and also make my hall also look somewhat normal in a few hours they have left. You imagine being in that position? You know, they have that TV show, What Would You Do? Imagine you were in that position. What would you do? All hell would break loose, excuse my expression. There'd be gunfire. I don't know what would be happening. There'd be domestic violence. You know what would happen in such a situation? Forget about the party planner getting paid. If the party planner lives to the next day, it's a miracle. And this Hasidic Jew, who for months is busy on the phone with this lady, forget about the money. Money, say he's rich, he is charitable. It's months that he's busy on the phone with his party planner, every detail exactly the way he wants it to be for his daughter. And in 1 second, not only doesn't get upset, Hashem gave me a mitzvah, what? To make another kala happy. What could be better? And Malach says in the story that at the end this party planner was extremely skilled, used all her contacts possible. They delayed the chuppah a little later than 9, but they succeeded to make her a nice fancy production. Also, she wasn't disappointed. She had a great event. Unbelievable story. But how did he conclude the story? And that's why I said over the story. He said he has one problem with saying over the story. That how stupid was this girl? If only she would have taken that Tehillim that Shabbos and instead of davening for a kalat chair and a fancy wedding, she would have prayed for 3 apartments. She could have been a rich lady. And he made an unbelievable punchline to it. He says, we view God as somebody who's limited in his capabilities, and that's why our prayers are never able to be answered. And we ask for such small things because of that. He said to Hashem, $1 and $1 million and $1 billion is all the same. And for Hashem to heal you in one thing or in 100 things is all the same. So if you're already asking, so ask for everything. Once you're going for it, go for the gold. And that I hold is a big lesson that we all have to take before we go into the Tehillim and the prayers of HOSHANA RABA. If we're already coming to Hashem with bakashot and with all different things, and the Kula Alman HOSHANA RABA, you're allowed to say personal bakashot, and there's no question about it. If you learn good Likutei Moharan, you see that the whole Shoresh HaParnassah of the entire year comes through HOSHANA RABA, especially through Ptichat HaEchal HaShacharit of HOSHANA RABA. Then you know, the whole thing revolves around personal bakashot. If you're already asking, ask whatever you want. Go for the gold. Because it's almost an insult to God to ask him for something small. It's like, why limit his capabilities? It's like you go to some billionaire, schedule a meeting with him a year in advance, come to the meeting and say, can you help me? I need 25 cents to pay my meter outside. That's what you wasted a year waiting for me for? We waited a year from last HOSHANA RABA to this one to ask God for a quarter. That would be stupid. That would be silly. So once you're doing it, do it all the way. Go for the gold. Especially on the night that you stay up, which has an element to it of Tikkun Karet, and has a lot of other very powerful elements to it. And we know that afterwards we're going to do Tehillim and Akafot and so on. It's all different things together that help us get our prayers up in a very expedited way, whether we're worthy for it or not, whether we deserve it or not. It doesn't make a difference now. Hashem is here. Ki mincha pshuta lekabel shavim. Hashem's hand is out to accept everybody who wants to be shav b'tshuvat to him. B'vadai u'b'vadai. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is waiting eagerly to reach it, for his hand to reach out to us and to help us all. Okay, we spoke about Sukkot. We spoke about Lulav and Etrog. We spoke about HOSHANA RABA. So now we're going to prepare ourselves a little bit for Shmini Atzeret and Simchat Torah. Shmini Atzeret, Simchat Torah, the day that we're happy with the Torah. So on Sukkot, we have Mitzvah Sukkah, we have Mitzvah Lulav and Etrog, we have some mitzvot. Shmini Atzeret is a Yom Tov with no mitzvot. There's no mitzvah tzukah, there's no lulav, there's no etrog. We don't have it. So the only mitzvah that we have is simcha. Hayita ach sameach, pshutot k'mashmo. The one thing that we have is simcha. No? What does that mean? Number one. Number two, where does it apply to us? And what do we got to take away from it? So if you ever have the merit to witness a Simchat Torah in the Olam HaYeshivot, you'll see an amazing thing. Hundreds and hundreds of yeshiva students in the big yeshivot, thousands maybe in some yeshivot, they have hakafot for many hours. I don't know the exact time in Lakewood Yeshiva that the hakafot end, but it's very late at night. Past when all of you are sleeping, that's for sure. Each hakafa is an hour probably, maybe more. And sometimes the outsiders that come, many outsiders that come, and they almost feel a little bit out of place. Why? Because they view it that the Torah is so great. Arukai meretz midah urchava miniyam. Torah has no beginning, no end. And these students are sitting and learning Torah all day, so of course they're dancing with the Torah. It's a little bit together what it says, "V'David mechalkel b'chol oz lifnei Hashem." That they're dancing with the Torah, that they live and that they study and that they breathe. The Torah is their DNA. By the way, there's a Zohar HaKadosh in Chelik Aleph Daled that the Zohar HaKadosh writes that if somebody's mechadesh a chidush in Torah, la'amita shel Torah, a true chidush in Torah, so in a rough translation, the Zohar says, it's as if he's boreh shamayim chadashim, as if he creates a new heaven. I don't know, I wish I knew how to explain you what that means. I don't understand the Zohar well enough to explain what that means. But that sounds pretty intense. He created a new heaven. It's like he has a part in Briat HaOlam. It's an unbelievable thing. Kal v'chomer, those that are mitzta'eh b'tzara shel Torah, that sacrifice a lot for the learning Torah, and they go to really clarify everything and every detail in Torah. So b'vadai u'b'vadai we understand that they have a direct connection to Tovli Torat Picha me'alpei zahav v'chesed. The Torah is worth more than all the gold and silver in the world. And a common thing that we see sometimes in the yeshivot is that the Olam HaTorah is dancing, and on the side there are people that are just spectators that are watching. And they don't join the dancing. Not because they don't want to join the dancing, they're dying to join the dancing. But they don't feel worthy. You talk to them, and I tried this. I spoke to them. I said, why don't you come in? Join us. And they tell you an interesting thing. They say, you guys, they learn all the time, so you have what to be happy with, Simchat Torah. But I didn't open a Gemara in a year. So what exactly am I being happy with? The Torah that I didn't learn? So Simchat Torah and me have nothing in common. That's what some people think, Lalina. And that's why they stand on the side, they just watch. And he's not happy, he's sad then. And maybe even sad with Yurei Tshuva, that he feels like, maybe I should be doing better. But really the truth is, the Shem Shmuel writes, that that's the Atzat Yetzarai. I think his words are more or less, that Hu Eino Sameach, he's not happy, Aval Satan Sameach. But the Yetzirah is very happy at that point. Because he got him to be sad on a holiday that's all about happiness. And he quotes from the Kotzker, that was his grandfather, a very interesting thing. He says, people have a big mistake. They think that the reason why we have Simchat Torah is because we're celebrating the Torah that we learned. This past year's Torah. He says, no. He says just the opposite. Simchat Torah is a preparation of joy towards the Torah that we will be learning in the coming year. It's a celebration for what's coming ahead. It's not a celebration for what's going back. And if that's the case, then everybody has a chance to learn. So it's a big chizuk. So we're all part of Simchat Torah no matter what. It doesn't make a difference what was. It makes a difference what the plans are going forward, what will be. Comes the Shem Yishmael and adds on to this idea a little further. He says in Kitvei Ari HaKadosh, it's מבואר, in Sha'ar Kavanot, in Durshei Chag HaSukkot in the Akdama, that Shmini Atzeret is called Atzeret. What does Atzeret mean? To gather, to collect. What are we collecting? So Ari HaKadosh writes that because a person just went through the whole HOSHANA and the Yom Kippur, so there was a lot of holy moments that he had, a lot of great things that happened to him. But you want to make sure it lasts, so you got to collect. Sometimes in the fashion business, for example, we sell a lot of product before holiday season, but it's all on net 30, net 60, net 90. So when the department stores are all happy on December 26th, bragging how much they sold, to us we're still not happy because we didn't get paid yet. At the end of January, beginning of February, when we get paid because their net 60s are up, that's when we're happy. Because now we collected. Right? The big guys, their happiness is not from the small sale. The happiness is from the collection of all those that made the small sales for them. Comes Ari HaKadosh and writes, throughout Elul, or Shana, Kippur, that, there are many small sales that people make. Here a little chizuk, here a little smile, here a little hirut tshuva, here a little this. But now you want to make sure that it actually stays with you. It's not just something that happened and now it's in the history. So Baruch Hu gave a day that has no mitzvah to it, and the only mitzvah is to go collect everything that you got until now and utilize it as a boost that you should be able to make a Kabbalah and Torah going forward. So you should have something that takes you throughout the next year until the next Elul HOSHANA. And that's really the etzem simcha of Kabbalat Torah. That's really the etzem simcha of Kabbalat Torah. In the Yeshivot HaKadoshot, there's a known thing that they used to sell the opening of the Ark for the Akafot, not with money. They used to sell the opening of the Ark of Akafot with Dapei Gemara. In the prestigious Yeshivot, it sells for at least learning Shas one time that year, sometimes even more than one time. Why? Because that's really what the Simchat Torah is. If it was on what you learned, so we should pick the guy who learned the most last year and give it to him. It's not. It's on what you're going to learn. So the guy is willing to take upon himself that he's going to learn the most in the upcoming year. That's the guy who he deserves the honor of the pticha, of that ptichat ha'echal. It's an unbelievable thing. Unbelievable thing. And this simcha knows no boundaries, and there were yeshivot that even drank a lot on Simchat Torah, even though, normally drinking is for Purim. But anything that enhanced the Simcha, that helped, that made the Simcha stronger or whatever, they did whatever it took just to make sure that there should be nothing that stops the Simcha. I forget who brings it down. I wish my memory was better. But it's brought down in Sfarim HaKadoshim. It has very valid sources from years ago that if a person is really sameach b'simchat Torah, he has a big simcha in Simchat Torah, muftach lo, it's guaranteed to him, shlo yamush haTorah mipiv u'mipi zaro ad olam, that him and his children and grandchildren forever will always know Torah, will always be b'nei Torah. So you see there's a very big thing in the simcha of Simchat Torah, it's a huge thing. And probably that's why the Yetzer Hara sneaks in and he makes it long, and he makes the aliyot long, and this long, and that long, so people lose their patience and not be interested. Because like this, he won, because he stole that opportunity. I added on a chidush, and I have a crazy maaseh nora with this. I don't know if it's true or not, but the maaseh worked anyway. There once, a guy came to me who I know for a few years. It wasn't that many years, 3.5 years. I think he was married 4 years, something like that at the time. And he told me that lo aleinu, he's not having children, and he went to doctors, and they're giving him very pessimistic diagnoses, and they tried a few treatments already and didn't work, and that. He really wants a child. He asked me if I know any sgulot. I told him I know, it's called Vitam Liam Sgula, the Jews, and we're into sgulot, but that's not my specialty. I could send you the guys that know sgulot. Told me I'm not going anywhere. You have something for me, good. If not, it is what it is. And there was, when he came to me, it was right before Simchat Torah. It was Chol HaMoed Sukkot. This was 2 years ago, I think. Yeah, it was 2 years ago. It was here in Queens. I told him, listen, I'm going to tell you what I think. I said, I have no source for it. Maybe it's made up on the spot, so don't hold me accountable if it doesn't work. But I can only tell you what I feel. If it says in the Sfarim HaKadoshim that somebody who is happy on Simchat Torah and Sameach b'Simchat HaTorah, Layamush Torah mipiv u'mipi zaro, so in order to have mipi zaro, you have to have children. If you don't have children, there's no mipi zaro. So by default, it has to be that Hashem is going to give you kids. So take upon yourself that this Simchat Torah you're going to be extra happy. So I told him, take upon yourself this. And he took it like to an extreme. And not only did he go to be himself, he later on told me that in the shul of Vidavins, in one of the shuls in Queens, he told me a name, I don't remember, there's so many. He even donated like kiddush, and he brought whiskey and wine and food, and he made a whole production there that everybody should really feel good, and the kids, candy bags. He went all out, he went nuts. And that they should all have a big simcha. And he says it was an amazing Simchat Torah. Simchat Torah, he called me, he said, I don't know if his Gula is going to work or not, but I'll tell you what, it was a happy Simchat Torah. Everybody had a great time, it was unbelievable. It was really unbelievable. I said, I don't know, I told you in advance, I don't know. Hashem shall help, whatever. Yeah, no, that year he had a child, naturally. No treatments, no nothing. Because when he had a doctor's appointment for the next series of planning treatments, whatever. Before the doctor said, he said, when was the last time you took a pregnancy test? The wife said, I can't get pregnant. I didn't even he says, no, we can't give you treatments. Well, no. She took a test then in the office and she was pregnant. Saved him some money also on the doctors. But, so again, I'm not saying that this is for everybody. I don't know. We see that in this idea of Simchat Torah, there's a very, very, very big power. There's a huge koach in Simchat Torah. And because we want everybody to have part of the Simchat Torah, that's why there's a Jewish custom, and I think all shuls in Am Yisrael, it doesn't make a difference, Ashkenaz, Sfarad, this, that everybody in the shuls over Bar Mitzvah gets an aliyah, and even the kids get an aliyah together under the talit. It's a weird thing. We make the shul drag out an extra 2 hours, it's not fair. What's the answer? That Dafka and Simchat Torah, we want to show them that everybody should take part in this, in rejoicing with the Torah, and everybody's equal, and everybody gets an aliyah, and everybody's part. Nobody's left out. And that's an unbelievable thing. But obviously the more powerful a day is, the more the Yetzer Hara wants to cause trouble. No? So let's understand a little bit. There was a great Rabbi Elazar Bialystok, Zecher Tzadik V'Chas Chotei Yagen Aleinu. He was from the geniuses of the Chabura of Kotz. So he was busy a lot with working for Panasa and that. He didn't have it easy. And one day, he told his friends, you know why a person doesn't live forever? So they said, no. He said, because Hashem wanted a person to reassess his life every so often. So if he lives forever, he'll never reassess his life. If he knows one day he's going to die, he's going to reassess his life because he'll have to face God. He said, and today I was reassessing my life. And I realized that one day I'm going to come up to Shamayim and I'm going to have to answer up to God. Chazal teach us in Bavli, in Kiddushin Daf Mem, and Sanhedrin Daf Zayin, that Ein Tchilat Dino Shel Adam El Al Divrei Torah. That Hashem's going to ask a person right away if you study Torah. So he says, they're going to ask me, Elazar, did you learn? He said, what am I going to answer? I didn't have time. Yeah, I learned a little shir over here, a little shir over there, but I didn't have time to learn more than that. And they're going to ask me, why not? And I'm going to say, because I was busy with Panasa. And right away the Satan's going to say, see? They leave Chayei Olam, the Torah, for the sake of being busy with making money. I'm not going to have what to answer, because he's right. But then I'm going to think of a better excuse. I'm going to say, really, I wanted to go learn. When I went to go learn, my wife came to me and said, the kids are hungry. And it's a mitzvah, I'm going to go learn, the kids don't have food. That you can't do. So, I have to go. Hashem gave me children, He wants me to feed them. I had to go, make sure that I'm able to feed them. So then again, the Satan's going to laugh in my face and say, what a stupid answer, that's an excuse. He says, but when he's going to laugh at me then I'm going to have courage, and I'm going to yell at him, I'm going to tell him, you have no permission to speak. So his friends looked at him like a little weird. If what you're doing is right, so what? So then it's right away. And if what you're doing is wrong, so what? Your kid suddenly is the difference? Like, what changed suddenly? What's going on over here? So he said an unbelievable thing. This is an unbelievable thing. He said, the Chazal teach us, right? We spoke about this, I think, on HOSHANA, that when we blow the shofar on HOSHANA, the Satan thinks that maybe it's the shofar shel Mashiach. And if it's the shofar of Mashiach, then he's done. And therefore he gets very scared. Then, if you look into Tosfot in HOSHANA Tetzayin Amud Bet in the name of the Yerushalmi, it comes out even more interesting. Okay, that's the first kiyot. But we do 100 kolot. When we get to the second kiyot, so he should realize that this is not Mashiach anymore. This Muvran the Yerushalmi, not only doesn't he realize that, it's just the opposite. He gets even more scared. He gets even more scared. Why? He says, maybe these are the kolot shel Mashiach. What do you mean maybe these? You just heard a few seconds ago. Now more. He's that stupid. What's going on over here? But that's what the Sfot says in the name of the Yerushalmi, and that's one of the reasons that the poskim bring down of the inyan of Tkiyat Shofar HOSHANA. So Rabbi Loza asked, he doesn't understand. He says, what, the Satan's memory is so short? He should have remembered last year on HOSHANA they did the same thing, and 2 years ago HOSHANA they did the same thing. And it's a mitzvah to blow shofar HOSHANA. And he can't remember from 1 year. He can't remember from 1 year to the next that there's an inyan of Tkiyat Shofar. It's a good question, huh? You should remember last year they did Tkiyat Shofar. That's why now it's the same date, same year. This year they're doing Tkiyat Shofar again. What's the big deal? Satan's a malach. He can remember everything. He doesn't have such a short memory. Why can't he remember? So it has to be that he does remember. So if he does remember, why is he still scared? So we explained in the Shiurim that he still thinks maybe, what if, right? We had a whole way to explain that. But over here, the Pshat, he says a different Pshat, it's unbelievable. He says, what happens really? The first time Am Yisrael blew shofar, the first year, the first kiyot, the Satan got scared because he thought it was the shofar shel Mashiach. And that was a very, very traumatic experience there. Now he says, unbelievable chap. Immediately, this is brilliance. Unbelievable chap. We'll give him a mashal. Mashal is, let's say, lo aleinu v'la'achem should never know. It only happened to Sanei Yisrael. The guy was in a bad car accident. Got injured and that. And he's saying he got better afterwards, but he went through a hard time because of it. Lo aleinu should never know, we should never know. And then he gets courage and he starts driving again. And a few days later, he's in a stupid accident, fender bender, nothing happened. Not even a scratch. The probability of him not being able to drive home because of an anxiety attack is almost 100%. Why? Not because of the fender bender. Because at that moment, all his memories from all his suffering and his medical issues and his problems that he had from the bad accident, when he had serious trouble, all comes back like a flashback. In medicine, we call it post-traumatic stress disorder. And it reignites all the original trauma that he had. And now he's paralyzed. That's the mitzvah of the world. There are people that were in situations somewhere and they won't go back to the same town even because they're scared. They have bad memories, they won't go back. Nice an army for sure, Hashem Yerachim. I laugh, but I fly a lot, so I buy a lot of tickets on a lot of airlines. So a lot of times, there's an airline that's much cheaper than all the, I'm not here to advertise for them. You'll hear the story, I think it'll be the opposite. They call themselves Spirit Airlines. They have one thing to brag about, that they have the least legroom of any airline in the whole world. That's literal. They have 28 inches, it's the least. If you look it up on Sea Guru, you'll see there's no airline in the world that has such tight planes. But it's cheaper sometimes, $9 fare club, whatever, I don't know, sometimes Dan's Deals has $9 tickets, whatever. So one day, one of my friends bought one of these $9 tickets to Florida. He didn't buy one, he bought for him and for me and for a bunch of us. And he says, you gotta cut $9. I said, for me, $9 is not a reason to go somewhere, but it happens to be that I have to be in Florida for business, so, and you're going anyway, I'll go with you, fine, you bought it already. From Atlantic City Airport, I'll never forget, I even remember the airport I left from. Atlantic City Airport to Fort Lauderdale. We get on the plane, and 4 minutes after takeoff, the right engine went on fire. But not just fire, we saw shooting flames. It looked like a space shuttle going up to space zone. It was scary. And it was emergency landing, we were fine, nothing happened to anybody, everything was perfect. But there was a good pilot, I give him credit. He handled and kept everybody calm, and a few minutes later we were on the ground, and I think the whole fire department of the state of New Jersey by then was coming there. And everybody got off safe, and it was actually a fun experience. We were able to slide down and shoot. I never did that before. It was, in retrospect, maybe but if today you come and tell me, let's fly Spirit Airlines, I'll tell you, no thank you, I'm going to stay home. At the end of the day, it happened to other airlines too. They're not the only airline that it happened to. It probably happened to every airline, because sometimes engines goes on fire. That's a normal thing, and it's actually, planes are made to be able to withstand that. But at the end of the day, my experience was on that plane. So in my mind, my association, Spirit, is emergency landing, trouble, leave me alone, I don't want anything to do with it. Yeah, it's cheaper, but the funeral expenses are higher. So, it's so that's my, it's a personal. Now, if somebody else goes, is he doing something wrong? No, because statistically, the odds of that happening there or anywhere else is probably the same. I don't know exactly, but I'm assuming it's the same, because there is a standard they have to keep to a safety. But that's the human nature. Comes this Rabbi Loz Kotzke and says, unbelievable thing. He says the first kiyot, of the first time Am Yisrael blew kiyot on HOSHANA, then the Satan didn't know yet that it wasn't Shofar Rosh Mashiach. So then he got scared. And he thought it was Shofar Mashiach. And from there on, every time a Jew blows Shofar HOSHANA, he goes back to the original post-trauma that he had then, and he gets scared, not because of what he's doing now, because his memories of his fear then come back to him and reignite and paralyze him, and he can't talk bad about Am Yisrael, and that's how the Jews have a good year every year. That's the way he led Pshat in this Yerushalmi, and the Tosfos brings down in HOSHANA. Unbelievable Pshat. He said, based on this, he says, I'm going to tell the Yetzirah, you got scared hundreds of years later, because of a shofar that happened hundreds of years before you. And you don't understand that I got scared and I had to go to work when I heard the screaming of my wife that morning? What do you want from me? He said, and then I'm going to win in Bedin Shamala and I'll be okay. This is what he said over. No, it's an interesting story. And so on. But at the end of the day, it's more than that. That sometimes we feel tonight that, Shana went by, Kippur went by, no, we're back to business, back to usual, nothing changed, everything's the same. And in Yiddish we call it Shvera Matzev. It's not the situation's not the best. But based on the way we explain Simchat Torah, so it's a big chizuk. We have to go into davening tonight, this morning, I don't know what to call it, but a big chizuk inside. Because if we don't look back, we look forward, it's going on what's going to be. And what's going to be, we all have an opportunity still. We have a whole year to do something good. So then, there's a reason to be happy as could be. Should be on top of the world. Should be sameach, simcha gdola v'atzuma. But we just have to keep one yesod, and with this we're going to wrap it up, and then we're going to go read some Tehillim, because Tehillim is very important on the night of HOSHANA RABA. One yesod that we have to remember very clearly is that there's no free passes. Meaning, if a person does a mitzvah, but he doesn't know that he's doing a mitzvah, then it has some value, but very, very minimal. And if he does the same exact mitzvah, but he knows he's doing a mitzvah, so then it's priceless. To explain this in a way that everybody can understand, I want to give over a mashal that's very famous from the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh. It's brought down in the Baal Shem Tov al Torah in Chedek Aleph. The Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh writes that mashal, there was a king who sent his son to go do some mission for him, a secret mission. But he had to go to a different country, to an enemy country. And of course the son, for his father, would do anything, and he went. Lo and behold, he had bad luck. Somebody recognized him, the king's son of the enemy country. What could be better? They took him captive. Put him in prison. It wasn't a good situation. Finally, they decided that's going to start a war. It's not worth keeping him in prison. They need him to at least be in good shape. So they didn't let him leave the country. They took him out of jail, but they kept a close eye on him, that he can't go nowhere. Because they wanted to use him as a bartering tool to give him back to his father one day, but under good terms. One day, the king's son is very depressed because he's used to being a king and this and that. But now he's caught and he doesn't know if he'll ever go back home and what's going to be, and he's a prisoner. It's not good. And suddenly a guy comes over to him and talks to him in the language of his country and whispers in his ear, "Your father sent me as a messenger to let you know that we know exactly where you are and we know exactly what's going on with you. We're keeping a close eye on you, and we can't tell you when because we don't know for sure yet. But within the next few weeks, we're coming in and we're going to save you, and you're going to be right back home, and everything's going to be fine. And your father's going to take big, big revenge afterwards from this country." Now inside of him, he was very happy. But he quickly realized one thing. If he's going to show his happiness, prisoners aren't happy. Definitely not prisoners of war. So his captors are going to realize that he has an escape plan. Now they're going to keep even more eyes on him. Or they'll kill him. He's going to be dead. He's not going to make it home. Or the plan will fail and he won't make it back. So he didn't know what to do. He was caught. So he said he's going to try to cover up for his happiness. But he was so happy that it was exploding from inside. He couldn't cover up for his happiness. So he ended up coming up with a solution. He went to a bar and he got drunk. Now all drunks behave in either happy or sad ways, but one way or the other. And it's not a question, it's drunks behave in weird ways. So everybody in the bar was behaving meshuggah. He wasn't the only crazy one there. Comes to Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh and writes, to the outsider who walks in and he looks at the 20 drunks sitting by the bar, they all look the same, all stupid, laughing, going at stupid jokes. Huh? But to somebody who knows the background of the story, what's the difference? 19 of them are just drunk, and that's why they're happy. This kid is drunk, but he's happy for a completely different reason. The drunkenness is just a cover-up for the real reason of why he's happy. What's the Baal Shem Tov writes, Mashal? What's the Nimshal? So he writes, HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends us a neshama from the highest place in Shamayim. And this neshama goes into a body and comes down into this world. And then in this world, it gets captive. It gets kidnapped by the Yitzhara, by Ta'avot, by Averot. Excuse me, by all different things. And it's bad news. And the neshama is yearning to be back home by Kisei HaKavod. And it's stuck, a prisoner of war in this world. Comes like HaKadosh Baruch Hu and says, I'm going to come salvage you. David Hashem Ori v'Yishi. Ori v'Roshana, Yishi on Kippur. Mira is on HOSHANA RABA. We're not scared of anybody. It's the day that we have victory over the whole world. If you look in the history of the Jewish nation, Shavav L'Aleinu L'Alechem, next Shavav should be a big Yom Tov Be'ezrat Hashem. B'Yad Goel. Was a day that many tragedies happened, like World War II and other things, terrible tragedies throughout history in the Jewish nation. On the flip side, Chafalef Tishrei, HOSHANA RABA, was a day that huge victories happened to the Jewish nation in many, many different situations. The most publicized one was the trial for the Nazis, Yimach Shemam, that they tried and then ended up hanging. I call them Naseret B'nai Aman. Their names are really hinted in Naseret B'nai Aman. In the year Tafshin Zayin, the Nuremberg trial, they were killed on HOSHANA RABA. If you look at the date and you match it with the Hebrew calendar, an 120-year calendar, you see it was HOSHANA RABA. Many stories like that of Jewish victories getting revenge against the enemies happened on HOSHANA RABA. So Hashem comes and says, I'm going to save your neshama even in captivity. Who could stop that? The Yitzhara, because he's going to stick you right back into the dumps. So comes HaKadosh Baruch Hu and says, I'm going to take a day. I'm going to make it into Simchat Torah. There's no mitzvot that day. No lulav, no sukkah, no nothing. What's the mitzvah? Drink some wine, dance, be happy. And like this, the Satan's going to look at Am Yisrael and say, they're a bunch of crazy drunks dancing in their synagogues. And he's going to leave them alone. Even more than that, he's going to say, disrespecting the Torah. Look, they take out the Torah, they eat, they drink, they have parties in the shul with the Torah. They have no respect for nothing. And then he gets fooled into it. He gets trapped into it. Comes to Baal Shem Tov and says, that's why it works so well. That's why Kosh Baruch Hu says Shmini Atzeret is a day that's just for him and us. Because he gets the Satan out of the picture by fooling him. But he says that only works if you know why, if you're like the son of the king in the bar. That you're not like the rest of the drunks, that you know why you're happy. But if you don't know why you're happy, then you missed the whole point, you lost it all. That's what comes out of the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh. So that's really my message over here for Simchat Torah. We should really have a Shmini Atzeret and Simchat Torah that should be Le'eda Le'eda. Me'al HaTeva in every way. Shmini, 8 is Me'al HaTeva. It's the Niglash Banistar, there's no, it goes, anything that's within 7s is still nature. Anything that's in 8s is already above nature. As the Maharal explained this Ba'arichut Noah in many places. So the Simcha over here should be above nature. But it should be a Simcha that we really know the reason why. And nobody should chas v'shalom go into Yush, Ein Yush Ba'olam Klal. So Nachman's Yotzei last week. He was the Baal Memra. Nobody should give up. Because our holiday now is not about looking back on what was. Our holiday now is about looking forward, what will be. About new beginnings, about new chances, about a new chizuk, about a new life, a new day, a better day, a happier day. If we look at life that way, with a more optimistic attitude, a more happy attitude, a more exciting attitude, then bevadei, Hashem is going to be sameach, simcha gdola with our simcha, and that simcha should be accepted in Shamayim, ba'ava gdola b'ezrat Hashem, and it should bring for all of us refuah, geula, v'yishua, and all the gzeirot torot b'ezrat Hashem, with the whole life of 120 b'ezrat Hashem, amen v'amen.